Happy birthday, Evie Bubbles. I meant to say that to you last night when the caller was on. Okay, I know you can't hear me, but I made a video, okay, and for the first 20 minutes, it's about Longo. 31 minutes, I was on mute. So I redid it, and it was supposed to go in another live, but it did the same thing. So I'm going to play it in here, starting at the sound, because that's what I was going to do tonight. So I'm going to put it over here in the window and play it and then discuss it. All right, so I'm just going to get, oh my gosh. There it is. Hang on, so hold on, let me put it over here. I just realized I was on mute during the entire video there. That is wonderful. Okay. Hang on. Okay. Hold on a second. I don't know what's going on. This is the wrong video now. Hang on. No, it just skipped ahead. I didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Hold on a sec. Come on. It will come on in a second. She's going to start up in a second. There you go. Oh my gosh. Hi guys. Oh no, this is not good. I just realized I was on mute during the entire video there. That is wonderful. Okay. Ooh, let's see. Oh wow, you guys are not going to believe this. I just created like the first hour of this video and realized I was on mute. I cannot believe it. It wasn't an hour. I was being over dramatic. So it was 31 minutes. Again. What I was saying was back last winter, I think it was January or February, I had done a premiere on Christian Longo. And last night during the live, I explained that there are so many similarities that are even becoming more apparent than when I did that video. There were similarities back then, but now with Chris's second, third confession, there are more so. So I want to go back and revisit that, and I wanted to do it in its own video. And that's what I was just doing for the last hour, but let's go over this again. I'm going to bring you a little bit of a synopsis on the, just quick, give it to you. Then we're going to read from the court documents a little bit. Then we're going to look at the timeline a little more in depth. Then we're going to talk about their similarities. So you're going to see the similarities when I start talking about the case. Okay? So Christian Longo was born in Iowa. He was born to a young mother and her abusive husband. And his mother left the abusive husband. She became a Jehovah's Witness, and in the church she met her husband, Joseph Longo. And he raised the boys as his own. They were very strict Jehovah's Witnesses, and that really affected the way that Christian grew up. Now, Christian was in the church. He met Mary Jane, at a very young age.
I call her Mary Ann all the time.
By the time he was 19, he wanted to marry her. She was 25. Because of the age difference, his parents were really against this marriage, not unlike our first similarity, right? That Chris's parents were against his marriage, didn't even attend his wedding. There was another issue, and we'll go into it in a second about exactly what happened, but Christian had been working in a camera store. He had stolen from his employers, and he had been ex-fellowshipped, I believe it's called, from the church, where everyone he couldn't get married there, and they were shunned by any of their friends and family in the church. I'll get into that in more detail. We are going to look at what happened through the court records, and then we'll get into the exact timeline and a lot of the similarities. You're going to see a lot of similarities. Mary Jane and Shanann were both 34 at the time they were both manually strangled. Their husbands treated their body, not only murdered them, but treated them awful when they went to bury or dispose of the bodies. Mary Jane was dumped in a suitcase naked and thrown into a body of water. We know that Chris says Shanann was wrapped in a sheet that he pulled away so quick she ended up face down in the dirt, and he just left her that way. So we see similarities there. We see similarities with the children, where people can say Chris Watts was a good father. He wasn't a good father. He was a robotic father. He went through the motions. He held the kids because he was supposed to. When he would talk about nighttime routines, even with Tammy, and I've said this before, he goes through a series of steps as if he's giving instructions to something. There's no emotion attached to that. I bathed my daughters. I put lotion on them. I dried them off. I put their pajamas on. I put them to bed. He doesn't even tear up or anything when he's explaining this. This was evident. Okay, this was like a job to him. Very robotic. Okay, like a Twilight Zone robot taking care of kids. Even the Twilight Zone, the one I seen, the Body Electric, she had emotion. But there were other robots that Rod Serling had that didn't, just went through the motions, and that's what Chris was like. So let's take a look at what it says in the court documents. I always feel bad when I have to re-record something because I'm like, oh, I took so much time on something before, but I can't. I have to just go through this and not get stressed with it. So I'll give enough information. So this is going to be what I'm going to go over right now, is going to be out of the court documents as it was going into the punishment phase after he was convicted, after he was found guilty of this. And it was going into the punishment, the death penalty phase. So I'm just going to give the facts that are in that document because we like to deal in facts. And this is the...
Okay, hold on a minute. Now, a bunch of you are saying my voice is this, my voice is that. If I mute my microphone like yesterday, like I normally would, then I'm just afraid you're not going to hear it. So I'm going to do a test now. I'm going to mute my microphone and play the video, and I need you to tell me if you can hear it. Okay? If you can't hear it, then I can't mute. For some reason, I can't mute my mic anymore. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to try that. Now I'm going to mute my mic and push play. I'm going to push play first so you can hear it, and then you'll hear if it doesn't happen. All right?
This State versus Longo.
Okay, so the microphone has to stay unmuted.
And we know now Christopher Watts premeditated his crimes. But Longo premeditated much more and did things. And still he was caught less than a month after in Mexico. So this is what the facts are in this document from the court. The first hints of the events that would unfold in Oregon came roughly 18 months before the crimes. while Chris Longo was living with his family in Michigan. On May 26, 2000, Mary Jane Longo called her sister. She was very upset. She told her sister that she had discovered emails from Chris to another woman. The woman happened to be someone in the church, another Jehovah's Witness. And Mary Jane confronted Christian with these emails. Now, Christian had told her that he didn't love her anymore, Mary Jane, that he didn't love Mary Jane anymore, his wife, and that she spent too much time and attention on the children, and that she was no fun since they had children. You see, this is a lot like Chris, had children because I'm supposed to have children, really not feeling that fun, really feeling tied down with these kids, wanting a new life. Christian Longo wanted a new life, and we'll find that out in a second. In early 2001, the murders occurred December 17th, 2001. In early 2001, because of various financial and legal problems, Chris Longo and his family moved to Ohio, and they lived in a warehouse in Ohio. Now, after Chris Longo was a suspect in the murders, the police went to that warehouse, and you know what they found? They found Marianne's wedding dress, and they found Marianne's wedding album, okay, that had been left behind there. There were also 2 books left behind. One was a Spanish phrase book, and the other was a book entitled The Modern Identity Changer. Chris Longo and his family didn't stay long in Ohio. They arrived in Oregon in September of 2001. And they arrived there in a stolen minivan. We'll talk about that in a second. But they settled in the Newport area. He created facades of his life. He wanted to be very successful. You see, when he got married, his parents didn't want him to get married. So he was determined to prove them wrong, that he was going to be a success. He started a construction cleanup business called Final Touch. Sounds like this fabric softener, right? And at first it did very well, and he had over 70 employees. But then it started to not do well, and he couldn't admit it, not even to Mary Jane. He just kept going, trying to create this facade, keep it up, that he was really successful. And they had already been living above their means. When the company was successful, he had been buying lots of things like boats and cars, and so he was in a hole, and he wasn't going to come clean about this. So it started him on crimes, but not violent crimes, because like Chris Watts, they couldn't find that Longo had ever committed a violent crime or done anything violent. In fact, people didn't even ever remember him raising his voice, losing his temper. He didn't even really curse very much. So that way is very much like Watts. The other counterfeit checks and things like that, he felt he had to do to keep up with this vision of success that he wanted for himself. And the other problem was that he didn't have a wife that was contributing to the finances, that Mary Jane had left her job. They had 3 kids in quick succession. Started in 1997, they had another in 1998, and another in 1999. They had 2 girls and a boy. The boy was the oldest. And so that brings stress on any marriage, right? But a marriage that already has one of the greatest stressors, which is financial issues, and then the next greatest, kids and kids coming in fast, that's a lot, right? Okay. So let's go back to the court documents. So they found, they went to the Newport area of Oregon, and the only job he could find was one for a little over $7 an hour at a Starbucks in a Fred Meyer's. So he and his family moved there, and they started staying in the Newport Motor Inn around November 2001. And he told the manager of the Motor Inn that he had been sent down from Portland to help set up a Starbucks outlet, because he always had to create this life, this illusion, right? Like that show where the CEOs go down there and they moonlight as an employee, right? Okay. About November 30th, he moves his family into a condominium. Now, these were upscale condominiums, but he told the condominium manager and the front desk person that he worked as a subcontractor for Quest, and that's a company that puts in high-speed internet, and he was surveying the coast for this DSL. He also claimed that he only had 2 children, not 3, and he said that his family was living out of town and he would visit them on weekends. They had that one vehicle, this maroon minivan that he stole from this dealership. Now here's what happened here. This was when they were back in Ohio. Things, weren't going well financially, but he was still, even though Mary Jane had, she moves her in a warehouse. Okay, I don't think things are going great, no matter what he's telling her. But the car breaks down. So he gets a one-way rental to an out-of-state dealership. And they go, and he gets a fake license, and he test drives a minivan. And he never returns it. They have this stolen minivan, okay? So that's what this. They have the one minivan, has an out-of-state license plate reading Kid Van. Now on December 9th, 2001, he and his family look at a green Dodge Durango at this Town and Country Dodge dealership in Wilsonville. On December 15th, 2001, he didn't go to work. But that night, he had his co-worker, Denise Thompson, come and babysit his children so he and his wife could go to dinner and a movie. They returned at 10:30 p.m. and then saw Denise, and she went home. And that is the very last time anyone other than Chris Longo saw Mary Jane or the children alive. It's not clear exactly when Christian committed these murders, but at about 2 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, December 16th, a couple staying in the room directly above the Longos, Mr. and Mrs. Crabb, were awakened by dragging noises that continued for 5 to 15 minutes. Mrs. Crabb believed that the noises were coming from downstairs, but Mr. Crabb thought the noises came from next door. He called the apartments on either side, but no one answered. The next morning, the Crabbs complained at the front desk, and they were told that no one had been in the rooms on either side of them. Chris Longo's recorded interviews with police suggest that the murders took place in the early morning hours of Monday, December 17th. Christian implied that he and his family, after returning home from work at 11 p.m., he indicated that it was either Sunday or Monday, but he couldn't remember which. His work records show that he did not work on Saturday, but he did work from 11 p.m. to 11 p.m. on both Sunday and Monday, the 16th and 17th of December. In his recorded statement, he said that when he got home at 11 p.m., everyone was asleep. He had some wine and cheese. He went out on the deck to think about his financial problems. Then he came back and laid down in bed next to Mary Jane. Doesn't that sound familiar? Madison, their youngest child, was asleep on a comforter in the room, and the other 2 children were asleep on the pull-out sofa in the living room. He laid awake for a couple of hours worrying about his financial problems. In his recorded statements, he did not further describe the crime, but he did say that he had been reliving those events every night. Sounds familiar, right? Mary Jane was manually strangled. Her nude body was put in a suitcase, and it was dumped off the dock of the Embarcadero Marina. Madison, the 2-year-old, also was strangled. Her body was put into a different suitcase and dumped off the same dock. Zachary and Sadie, ages 4 and 3 respectively, both died of asphyxiation, but the medical examiner could not be more specific. The body of Sadie Longo was tied to a rock and dropped off a bridge on Highway 34 near Waldport. The body of Zachary Longo was found floating near the same bridge. Near where Sadie's body was later found, divers located a large rock inside a child's pillowcase that had been twisted shut. On or about 4:30 a.m. on Monday, December 17th, a construction worker was driving on Highway 34 towards Waldport, and he found a red minivan stopped in the middle of the bridge. The worker stopped and asked the driver, a man, whether he needed any help, but the driver said he didn't. He had just stopped because his check engine light came on. Later that same morning, about 8 a.m., the harbor master at Embarcadero Marina noticed a broken pipe under the ramp at the marina. Divers later discovered that the suitcases containing the bodies of Mary Jane and Madison were in the water just beneath where the pipe had been broken. Now, Chris worked on Monday, December 17th from 2 to 11 p.m. at the Starbucks. He did not work on the 18th. And that day, the housekeeping staff at the Newport Motor Inn discovered that someone had put in the trash dumpster children's clothing, baby books, a wallet containing Mary Jane's driver's license. Much like Chris couldn't care less about the kids' belongings, right? Threw that stuff in the trash. He threw their baby books, threw it in the trash. Didn't want any part of it. That afternoon, someone stole a green Dodge Durango from the Town & Country Dodge dealership in Wilsonville and left behind a maroon minivan. Wasn't that nice? Although the license plate had been removed from the minivan, the foam underneath showed the impression of the letters kid van. And inside the minivan were 2 other license plates. Later in the afternoon on December 18th, Chris Longo spoke with the manager at the condominium, and he told the manager that he had taken his wife and his children to the airport and that he and Mary Jane were having marital problems. He then attended a Christmas party for Starbucks employees that same night, and he was driving a green Dodge Durango. Now, he told his coworker Denise Thompson, the one that babysat, along with another coworker, that he had taken his wife and children to the airport. The party involved a gift exchange, and he gave the recipient of his gift a bottle of perfume. The bottle was not new. It had belonged to Mary Jane. Now, on Wednesday, December 19th, he worked from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Starbucks. That day, he told Denise Thompson, and another coworker that his wife had been having an affair and that she had left him for another man. He named the man supposedly involved, and he claimed to them that he wasn't even sure if Madison was his child. Sounds a lot like something else. In the same conversation, he told them that he had put his minivan in storage in Portland, and he told Denise that he wanted to install a CD player in the Durango. He made arrangements for her and her husband to accompany him on Saturday to buy a CD player, and that he would have her husband install it for him. That afternoon, he rented a movie. That same day, on the 19th, police discovered Zachary's body. On Thursday, December 20th, Chris worked from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Starbucks and later played volleyball with a coworker. Fresh head, right? Denise Thompson saw a picture, a sketch they made of this little boy found, and she tentatively identified that from babysitting him to be Zachary. So she went to the police. On December 21st, Chris Longo fled the state and headed for San Francisco. And after he arrived, he applied for a job at a local Starbucks. However, he decided to flee to Mexico. On December 26th, he purchased a plane ticket using information from a stolen credit card receipt from a customer at Starbucks. He left the green Dodge Durango in the parking lot at the San Francisco International Airport. In the Durango, police searched. They found the license plate kid van, as well as the defendant's checkbook, his marriage license, and his diploma. Police captured the defendant on January 13, 2002, less than a month after the murders. Now, at the time, he was staying at a campground near Cancun, Mexico. At this campground, he was telling other people that he was a writer for the New York Times. That's another story. He had been touring local ruins and other sites, and at the time of his capture, he was sharing a cabana with a woman, and he admitted that he had been sexually intimate with her. While the defendant was being returned to the United States, the FBI agent accompanying him asked him about the murders, and he replied, "I sent them to a better place." Okay. So the rest of this has to deal with the punishment phase about the death penalty. He was given the sentence of the death penalty there, And let's go on to some other things along with the timeline that you'll see are very, very similar to Watts. Okay. So Christian Longo, let's go back, at age 17, meets Mary Jane Baker in the Jehovah's Witness church that she and her mother attended. She is 8 years older than he is. At 18, he moves out of his parents' house. He gets a job at a local camera store, as I said. Mary Jane works as a secretary and is not only very devout, but very active in the church's activities. Christian, though, was caught stealing from his employers at the camera store. As a result, the church elders refused to allow the couple to marry in the church. So March 13, 1993, Mary Jane Baker marries Christian Longo in the school auditorium by a minister. And Mary Jane is described as quiet and easygoing, and Christian is described at this period of time as self-employed construction cleaner who is charming and businesslike. February of 1997, they have their first child, Zachary Michael Longo. Also in 1997, Christian and Mary Jane Longo purchase a brick ranch-style house. 1998, Mary Jane gives birth in April to Sadie Ann Longo. Mary Jane at this time quits her secretarial job. In 1999, in October, Madison Jean Longo is born. January of 2000, Christian Longo quits his job. He utilizes the market value of the house they bought, $80,000, as collateral to open his own construction cleaning firm, the Final Touch Construction Cleaning. It's soon apparent that they are living beyond their means, purchasing expensive cars, a boat, snowmobiles. They have no health insurance. February 16, 2000, Jason Joseph Fortner takes a new maroon minivan for a test drive. He provided the salesperson with a driver's license, which he made. Christian drives that Pontiac home. He replaces the license plates from another vehicle. Spring of 2000, he engages in an affair with another Jehovah's Witness, and Mary Jane becomes aware of the affair. And Mary Jane, when becoming aware of this affair, vows to be a better wife, to make better meals, to be more attuned to her, body and her clothing and her hair, and, improve her image and all of this stuff in order to make Christian happy. She wants to desperately save this marriage, right? May of 2001, they sell their house, which was in need of repairs, to Aretha Evans and her husband. Now, shortly after they purchase this house, they start getting knocks on the door from former clients, looking for Longo with complaints. Court documents start getting taped to their door. The sheriff's department starts coming there looking for them, okay? They're gone. Now, June of 2001, Christian Longo commits check forgery. See, his main client, Wexford Business, isn't paying him fast enough. So he has this mounting debt, and he figures, okay, he's going to just do this. And he starts writing checks, okay? He begins to forge these checks to himself from the Wexford account beginning mid-June and throughout mid-July. 6 fraudulent checks during that time, about $30,000. He cashes them in various banks. Now, Wexford builders notify the police. Longo tries to cash another Wexford check on July 14th. The bank calls the police. Longo leaves the bank, but he left his ID behind, and he was arrested that afternoon. He admits to forging the checks, but of course he has an excuse, right? He says that, oh, come on, I was just doing what I needed to do. They were taking too long to pay me, right? Mary Jane picks him up at the police station in the stolen red minivan. Yes. Police soon decide Mary Jane did not know anything about the check scam. And Chris then is defellowshipped from the church. And that means they all cannot go to the church. All of their friends and his workers from the church shun them. He defaults on loans. He hires workers and doesn't pay them. He steals 2 construction trailers and a forklift. He sells the forklift. He is sued by the equipment dealer who purchased the forklift when he finds out it was stolen. Longo's mother-in-law, Mary Jane's mother, she forecloses on Longo after he stops making payments on a house she had sold him in Michigan, about 30 miles west of Detroit. In August, Christian forges a driver's license. He takes $8,000 from the house equity and moves his family to a warehouse in Toledo, Ohio. He has run away from 2 warrants, 6 lawsuits, and $60,000 of debt. In his possession are a stolen construction trailer, a forklift, a boat, and a trailer, and the stolen minivan. The rent on the warehouse is $1,650 a month. He uses it as a showroom to sell the stolen goods. He also returns to forging checks. He arranges to sell the forklift, value $32,000, for only $5,000. The buyer becomes suspicious and calls the police. Mary Jane's sisters try to convince her to move back home, but they're not successful. Jim Baker, Mary Jane's father, said that they were just over dramatizing this. There's no way he's going to harm these children and his daughter. He just loves them too much. See, he loves them too much, right? Yet, he renovates the lower level of his home in case Mary Jane and the children need a place to stay. Mary Jane's sisters return to Toledo, Ohio, and inform the police of Christian Longo's probation violation. On August 30th, the Toledo Police Department stolen vehicles section supervisor arrives at the warehouse. He finds Mary Jane and the children in the van. He checks the serial number on the forklift and the rental truck, neither of which were reported as stolen. He also sees a boat trailer, and a construction trailer, and by the time the police are onto the fact that the items weren't yet reported as stolen but were missing, Longo was gone with the minivan and the rental truck. Police find stolen goods along with many boxes of the Longo's household items in the warehouse. Photo albums, clothing, and toys are also left behind. Mary Jane's sisters decided to visit her. They arrive at the warehouse. It is empty, and there is no forwarding address. They find a missing persons report. They file a missing persons report. Christian Longo moves his family west. In South Dakota, he rents a large storage locker and drives the rental truck half full of their household items inside. He paid a month in advance, and then he takes the family and continues driving westward. In August, Christian Longo commits larceny. He opens a credit card account in his adoptive father's name, Joe Longo. He runs up debt in the amount of $100,000. September 12th, Christian Longo moves his family to Oregon in a stolen van. He takes a job at a Starbucks barista in Newport. He flim-flams his way into a rental home on Ocean Odyssey Vacation Rentals. Longo has pawned Mary Jane's wedding ring so he can pay in cash. He probably made her think she lost it. Probably made him feel bad for her too. Longo rents a house in Walport for $300 a week in October. Jim Baker receives a postcard with an Oklahoma postmark stating that Christian found a job and that things are going well. Now you see what he did. In the time that he premeditated these murders, he went ahead and he got postmarks and on postcards that he sent to his father-in-law and stuff. So to bring this whole charade. So he went a little farther than Chris and thought a little bit ahead, but he still got caught less than a month after. Now, Christian Longo is placed on 3-year probation for forgery and writing bad checks. November, after a couple of weeks, they move into a $22 a night motel in Newport. That's that motor inn, okay? November 30th, Longo moves the family into the Landing, an upscale condo on Yaquina Bay in Newport. He negotiates the rent to $1,200 a month. The payment is almost his entire paycheck for a month at Starbucks. Longo lies to the manager and tells him he is working for Quest, and he says that he paid the rent when he was paid. He had no money to pay. December 11th. Lincoln County Circuit Judge John Robert Huckleberry denies a motion to issue a warrant for Christian Longo's arrest. Longo is charged with a crime dating from September 12, 2001. December 14th. There's no money. The rent is due. There are no groceries for the family. December 16th. Longo later claimed that he and Mary Jane had a serious argument after he came clean to her about his past lies and criminal acts. Serious. Sounds like an emotional argument, right? That someone else had. December 17th, Longo later would claim that Mary Jane was morose when she picked him up from where he worked at Starbucks. He claims that she cried as they walked towards the condo, and he became alarmed. He claims he found Madison lying unconscious on the bed and that Zachary and Sadie were missing. He claims she said, "You did this. It's your fault." She used the word kill, and that was the first time that he suspected the children were dead. She said, "They're in the water. They're by the house. That's when I lost it." He claims he strangled Mary Jane with one hand, and then with two, he dropped her body when he could no longer hold it up. Instead of calling the police, he decided to dispose of the bodies in suitcases. Longo placed Madison's baby clothes into a suitcase and then found she was still alive. Even though she was breathing, I thought of her as dead. I couldn't put her in the suitcase like that. He strangled Madison. When asked why he didn't summon help when he found the child unconscious, Long stated, "I was hysterical at that point." Who does that sound like? Christian Longo was facing eviction from the condo December 17th. Christian Longo murders Mary Jane, Zachary, Sadie Ann, and Madison at the condominium where they are living. He stuffed their bodies into suitcases with comforters and then throws them into the shallow coastal inlets. A person who later becomes a witness at the trial sees a red minivan stopped on the Linslow Bridge at about 4:30 a.m. and speaks to the man in the vehicle, asking if he needed help. The man tells him no. The person went about his business. And several days later, he flies to San Francisco, California, in a stolen Dodge Durango. Motel employees on December 18th find Mary Jane's Michigan ID, baby books and clothes, family photos, Mary Jane's clothing, etc. in the dumpster. When he's notified his family's photos and baby items were found, Longo claims that the children must have left some of their stuff when they moved. He does not pick up the items. Of course not. December 19th. Longo tells a co-worker at Starbucks that his wife has been having an affair for 3 years and has taken the children to move to Michigan. The same day, a Dodge Durango is missing from a dealership south of Portland. Left in its place is a stolen red minivan with toys, sleeping bags, cell phones, and diving gear inside. There were pillows and one pillow without a pillowcase. There is also a book, Running from the Law. Longo drives to San Francisco. He's there for a few days and he applies for a job at a local Starbucks. He provides the Newport, Oregon Starbucks as a reference. The manager calls Newport to check in on the reference. Employees of the Newport Starbucks notify police. San Francisco police are notified and they find the stolen Dodge Durango in the airport parking lot. That same day, Zachary Longo's body, clad only in underwear with a pillow case tied around his ankle, is found floating 2 feet from the shore near the mouth of this bridge, which empties into the Alsea Bay. Saturday, Sadie Ann Longo's body is found submerged about 150 yards from where Zachary was found. She is in 9 feet of water, her ankle tied to a pillowcase full of rocks, which keeps her body on the bottom. Retouched photos of the children are placed on posters. A co-worker from Starbucks who had babysat, Denise Thompson, went to police and identified both children at the morgue. Jim Baker, Mary Jane's father, is notified that his grandchildren, Zachary and Sadie Ann, were found dead floating in the bay on December 22nd. On December 25th, investigators following leads, autopsies of the children had been completed. Although the results are not released, authorities did state that they had not died from trauma. The autopsy reports stated that the cause of death was consistent with drowning. Speculation is that the children were weighted down and then shoved into a sleeping bag and thrown off while they were still alive. December 27th, Mary Jane Longo said the youngest child, Mary Jane Longo, and the youngest child, Madison, are found in suitcases at the bottom of the bay. Divers find the dark green suitcases in the water. Mere yards from the condo, Mary Jane Longo, age 34, exhibited signs of blunt trauma to the head and strangulation. Her body was forced into a fetal position inside the suitcase. Sound familiar? Madison, age 2, had been strangled and was dead in a diaper inside the other suitcase. Lincoln County charges Longo with 7 counts of aggravated murder. Any murder of a child under 14 carries 2 counts. That same day, December 27th, a woman from Montreal, Canada, arrives in Cancun, Mexico, and meets a man named Brad at a hostel. Later, he tells her his name is Mike. Longo has been telling his German girlfriend and others that he is a journalist named Mike Finkel from the New York Times. He stole this writer's identity. The woman from Montreal leaves the hostel. Jim Baker described Mary Jane as straight-laced and states Mary Jane would never approve of Christians' law-breaking. Yet, she was naive and trusting and would have pretty much believed anything he told her. I suspect she finally put her foot down. I think that's when he killed her. She wanted to go home. She had enough of living out of cars. There was no history of him beating her, being abusive verbally or physically, and then to turn around and kill his family? I think he had a nervous breakdown. Something snapped. I think he's sick. January 2002. In Michigan, a funeral service for Mary Jane, Zachary, Sadie Ann, and Madison is held. And there's a warrant for Christopher Longo for a probation violation. January, Montreal, Canada resident telephones the FBI and said she had been traveling in Cancun, Mexico, and recognized Christian Longo. Longo was sharing a cabana with his photographer girlfriend from Germany in Mexico, near Cancun, Mexico. January 12th, Longo is placed under surveillance. January 12th, Christian Longo is arrested at 6:20 p.m. Pacific time. And he was 60 miles south of Cancun. Immigration police, FBI, the Mexican state and federal police, Mexican officials are all in on the arrest. Police kick in the door and Longo thinks it is a drug raid. Police find a credit card belonging to Mary Jane Longo. Argentine pesos stolen from other hotel guests and a notebook. He pays no attention to his girlfriend as he is arrested. The 14th of January, FBI agents transport Christian to the United States, and he is locked up in Newport, Oregon, in the jail. Later, he would state that he didn't understand the enormity of his crime until he was locked up. He said that he saw new photos of the makeshift memorial on the bridge, and up until then, he was feeling amazing. He saw news photos of the makeshift memorial on the bridge, and up until then, he was feeling an amazing amount of self-pity. Investigators digging into his background found that for years he's been a con man. He told elaborate lies. He stole cars, boats, construction equipment, and he was also cheating on his wife. Jim Baker said he had no desire to see Christian Longo again. As far as I'm concerned, the law will take care of it and justice will prevail. They have the death penalty out there, is what he said. Now, Christian Longo turned 38 on January 23, 2003. The same day he's indicted on 7 counts of aggravated murder. He pled guilty to Mary Jane and Madison's murders, but not guilty to Zachary and Sadie Ann. In April, he was convicted of killing Mary Jane, Zachary, Sadie Ann, and Madison, 4 counts of aggravated murder, and the jury takes less than 5 hours to convict him. April 17, 2003, he's sentenced to death by lethal injection, and the jury deliberates 6.5 hours. He tells the court he condemns his monstrous acts and expects no forgiveness. He spends 23 minutes in a rambling statement to the court. Longo apologizes for telling lies about his wife, Mary Jane, during the trial, but he does not recant his testimony that she killed the older children. They deserve the best, and that's something I didn't provide. I was the one, in fact, they needed protection from. Prosecutors say his appeals are likely to take 20 years. April 19, 2003, Christian Longo is removed from the Lincoln County Jail and processed into the Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem, Oregon, for his transfer to death row. Christian is engaged to a woman, this is in 2005, with 2 small children. She visits him regularly on death row. 2006, the Oregon Supreme Court upholds Longo's death sentence. Sometime around 2 in the morning on December 17, 2001, 27-year-old Christian Michael Longo allegedly drove his stolen red Pontiac, Montana van onto the narrow bridge over the Lynn Slough on the outskirts of tiny Walport, Oregon. There, according to authorities who have charged Longo with 4 murders, he tied pillowcases weighted with stones around the ankles of 2 of his children, and he put them inside a sleeping bag, and then he threw the bag over the rail into the waters below. Based on what police apparently told Longo's in-laws, 4-year-old Zachary and 3-year-old Sadie were still alive when their father cast them into the rainy darkness. Both children followed their mother, Mary Jane Baker Longo, and their baby sister Madison, already on the far side of the divide between the living and the dead. And if the state of Oregon has its way, Christian Longo himself will someday join them, courtesy of a publicly owned hypodermic needle. While such family massacres are hardly new, the Longo case stands out primarily because of what the accused perpetrator did not do, take his own life, as the last act of whatever desperation had driven him to such extremes. Well, yes, it's true. Most family annihilators take their own lives, but we're seeing late they're not. Chris Watts, right? Jeffrey McDonald, Chris Longo, Chris Coleman, John List. There are many that do not take their own lives. After his arrest, January 13th, at a grass shack on a beach some 60 miles south of Cancun, Longo was returned to Newport, where he has been in the Lincoln County Jail for the past this was written prior to his trial. So now what I want to get to is not this. Let's look at the similarities now in this case, because I think if you didn't know about this case, you've heard enough. If you didn't know about this case, you should check into it, because there's a lot more. There's a tremendous amount, and there is a book called True Story, and a movie. And now with this New York Times writer, this Michael Finkel. This happened because Michael Finkel was a writer for the New York Times, but he had put false information in one of his articles and he was fired. He was in his lowest of lows at that point, okay? And he got a call from someone. He didn't even know anything about this Chris Longo case at all. So he got a call thinking it was somebody wanting to find out about why he was fired and, you know, why did he create lies or whatever for this story. Instead, it was someone calling to find out if he knew that Chris Longo had assumed his identity and why would he have done that. Well, it was all news to this Michael Finkel. He had no idea. And he just wanted to find out. He started to meet with Chris Longo and he gathered a lot of information. Chris Longo kept changing. He never said what he did. He kept coming up with a different confession and a different confession, and each time it was more grotesque. Each time it was worse, just like what? So I go into that in the first video I've made, which I'll put a link in this if you want to go into that. But it's really something, and it's so similar. And I will tell you that the sister of Mary Jane, she said that he's a monster, Chris Longo. And every time things start to settle down, he starts up again. And she's just saying, we wish he would be put to death, but he's not going to be anytime soon. And so he wants the attention now. Now, what Longo's doing is, I don't know if you remember the movie 7 Pounds with Will Smith. He is kind of creating the narrative in his head that that's his movie and he's the Will Smith character because he's going through this whole crusade about organ donation with prisoners. And this is something else I also put in my video that I did. So what happened was, let me see here. I didn't put your pictures up there. Hang on. So this, let's see. This is a picture of Mary Jane, Christian, and the 3 children. He has pictures in his cell as well. He also has pornography in his cell. This is Christian. I think he looks like Nikki's brother in Big Love, if you've ever seen that show. This, I believe, is one picture that was of the children that he has in his cell. Now, a little more about Mary Ann. She was a sweet, unassuming young woman. She had a sheltered religious upbringing. She had been living with her parents until her wedding day at 25. She had only one future in her mind, that of a wife and a mother. She wanted to marry a religious man who would take good care of her and her children. In return, she would create a comfortable home and a good life for them. She wanted the ideal Christian life. When she met Chris, Mary Jane worked as his secretary. She spent every Wednesday going door to door for the witnesses. And Chris, smitten, joined in that just to be near her. Apparently, Christian's smooth talk, his handsome face, and his charismatic nature assured her that their dreams melded perfectly. Perhaps she should have paid closer attention. As they were seeing each other, Chris was caught stealing from his employer, which did not sit well with the church elders, and they refused to let Chris and Mary Jane get married in the church, as we said. And they got married in a school auditorium. In 1996, Mary Jane became pregnant, gave birth to Zachary Michael Longo, February of 1997, followed by Sadie Ann only 14 months later. At that time, Mary Jane quit her job as a secretary to become a full-time mother, what she always wanted. And 18 months later, she gave birth to little Madison. Mary Jane was focused completely on the kids, keeping everything tidy, dressing them well, taking care of the house. Christian had an idea of himself, his family, and his role as a provider. He too wanted to live the American dream, but he needed help. He needed to provide and provide well. And Mary Jane looked to him, and their babies looked to him. The pressure to keep up this end of the bargain was really hard, and he wasn't going to have a poor family. He wasn't going to live in a rundown home. He wanted a new minivan every 2 years for Marianne to drive. He wanted nice clothes. He wanted good toys for his kids. He wanted to go on nice vacations, and all of those things that showed he was successful. He felt he deserved that. He felt his family deserved that. And he was a master of justification. He resented the lengths that he had to go to provide what he considered to be just basic things. Now, that's what led him on that road that he chose of, stealing the cars, forging the checks, the credit cards, all of that stuff that he did. And I just want to get to the part about his changing confessions. Which is, hang on 1 second. Now there is much more in my video, including diagnoses and everything for Longo. And I'm probably going to do this in a second part because it's already later than I thought because I was muted for like the first hour. That was good. And there's just so much here. Every time someone asks about death row, and I always say go back to my Longo because he puts, and I put extreme detail about him on death row and exactly what I'm going to show you his cell in a second here. And this is him meeting with Mike Finkel from the New York Times, as Cindy Watts would say, behind a screen. Now remember, Chris Watts doesn't have to meet with people behind a screen where he is, right? He gets to even have a small hug. So let's see here. Longo started calling Mike Finkel, and he started to meet him in the prison. He spent many hours of his life talking to him. There was even a time that Longo was giving marital advice, and Mike Finkel's girlfriend said, believe it or not, it was good advice. It was crazy, right? Now, this is something very similar that Longo said that sounds a lot like Watts. It said that when he was talking about he was going to carve himself up, he'd give away his heart as long as his liver, as corny as his bone marrow, and whatever else could be salvaged. His finale, he called it, let others live, let him die. That's what he wanted. He had reached that conclusion, he said, after conducting a strange, self-administered psychological test. Recently, for the first time since he'd been incarcerated, he hung up a photo of his children in his cell. It was a studio shot, one that Mike Finkel saw at his trial. The three kids, gazingly, smilingly, and wide-eyed into the camera, heartbreakingly cute. Every time I turned around or rolled over, there they were, staring at me, Longo wrote in a letter he mailed to Mike on May 8, 2009. 9 weeks after the call, he had vivid recollections of the moment the picture was taken. The only way that we could get them all to look at the camera at the same time was to have me behind it, play acting a Barney phrase, super duper. But his reaction to the photo disturbed him. I'm not really feeling what everyone else feels, he wrote, tossing in, as he often does, an extra apostrophe. What should be most difficult to stomach is what I've done, yet somehow that part is still palatable. Sorry. Lately, he added, when he looked in the mirror, he was beginning to see a monster. He determined that the best solution was to give away his organs and end on a good note. And this is when he wants to, go on this whole crusade about the organ donation. And it's these things that Mary Jane's sister is saying. He's giving press conferences, he's making himself in the news, he's constantly bringing this up, constantly. And it's, anytime something dies down, he brings it up because he loves to have the spotlight on himself. Just want to see. So here's a very good part that I want to just share with you. Michael Finkel, this writer, said he became obsessed past any point of healthy distance with understanding Longo, the same way a lot of us want to understand Chris Watts, right? What happened? It's just, right? That obsession, I think we can relate to that. So over the following year, as he awaited trial in the county jail, he exchanged letters nearly every week. He spoke on the phone for a total of more than 50 hours. He visited him in jail 10 times. He rented a cottage in Newport, Oregon, and he moved from his home in Montana so he could attend every minute of the murder trial. What did I learn? Everything and nothing. You say that's kind of that same thing, right? At first, Longo had blamed a drug-addled intruder for killing his family, and then he accused Mary Jane of initiating the murders. And then he said he wasn't really sure of the details. He testified for 4 days, but never convincingly explained what happened that night, or fully confessed what he seemed to have plainly done. I can tell you with certainty, however, Longo's favorite coffee drink, hazelnut latte, and the first R-rated movie he ever saw, Tango and Cash, and the name of the first girl he kissed, Georgina, and his favorite cut of beef, prime rib, and his jail nickname, Shortstop, the opposite of Longo. I know that his IQ has been measured at 130, which is above the 98th percentile. Another coincidence, right? His letters, written on thin yellow jailhouse papers, sometimes topped 60 pages. Line after precisely printed line, detailed and poignant and horrifying and droll, almost completely without crossouts or erasures, an epic stream of consciousness unspooling of his life story. He once told me that I knew him better than his own parents do. Longo grew up in the Midwest, where his father worked as a manager for Target department stores. He had one sibling, a younger brother, Dustin. He met his wife, Mary Jane Baker, soon after the family moved to Michigan and began dating her. When he was just 18 years old, Mary Jane was 7 years older, a petite, pretty, quietly pious woman who, despite concerns about their age difference, told Longo she found him exceptionally mature and agreed to go out with him. Now, Chris Watts was younger than Shanann, but only by a year. They were married 5 months later over his parents' deep disapproval, and by the time Longo was 25, he had 3 children. He started the construction cleanup business. Okay, but that's not what I want to get to. Here's a picture of his cell, which is meticulous. He goes into meticulous detail, which I did in the other video about this case. I just don't want to reiterate everything. Okay, let's see here. I want to get to the confessions. Longo keeps his cells spotless and meticulously ordered. Every spice bottle, every jar of lotion, shampoo, every book, Bible, dictionary, encyclopedia. A couple of those books have a particular spot Other cells, he writes, are littered with remnants of the previous meal. Salt and pepper flakes everywhere, a half dozen rolls partially used toilet paper. So he's very disgusted by the mess. And he goes into how to keep, your cell clean, tidy. He goes into how he fixes up meals for other prisoners. There's a lot. I go into this in my book. Oh my gosh, in my other video. Okay, so now here's something. Maintaining the stock market lie. Okay, he lied to the other prisoners and stuff that he was in the stock market. So he said it's a similar kind. He's too tired to keep lying because he was still trying to keep up a different persona on death row. So now he says, I'm in a place, he wrote to Michael, where you're surrounded by similarly messed up people with only one mission: to do time. Something I'm more than worn out on already. There's really no point in continuing, he says. He's ready to carve himself up. After looking at my neighbors who have been here for a dozen years or 30, it's all an exercise in futility. So you can play the guitar well enough to be in a band and entertain millions, or you've studied magic as a hobby and now you can dazzle the group. 5, 10, 50 years later, you're still living in a box amongst a bunch of other boxes within a bigger box. As the months passed, from the time Longo told me he was planning to die, he explored over the course of a dozen dense letters, his handwriting a sort of small caps style, neat as a font, the particular environment of death row, and more intimately, the complicated landscape between his ears. The only time I've been thoroughly examined by a psychologist shortly before his trial. The ensuing report labeled him as a borderline psychopath. Longo did not disagree with the assessment, but he did debate precisely which side of the line he was on. After hanging up the photo of his children and hardly reacting, he called himself dead inside and more cold-hearted than I could ever imagine a human could be. Other times, he was convinced he was just as capable of emotion as anyone else. If I'm a monster, how could I have ever loved them as I felt I did? He wrote about his family. It didn't equate. When thinking back about times in life where my heart was squeezed in my throat, nothing hurt more than when Sadie fell off that swing I was pushing her on. To see tears fall from your child's face that you are the direct cause of was more painful than anything that I could remember. It's still painful. How could I be so horrible and still have that sort of pain? Also, he noted, as further refutation of his psychopathy, I get choked up during E.T. and Titanic. The longer he thought about this, the more confused he became. He said he felt near constant guilt over not feeling guilty enough for what he did. And then his attempts to understand his behavior seemed like trying to unscramble really rotten eggs. Eventually he gave up. His letters turned darker and more fatalistic. It does feel very much, he wrote, like the days are ticking by time bomb fashion. Longo agreed to put me on the witness list for his execution and said that he'd be willing to meet with me in the week leading up to his death. I found myself wondering what he'd order for his last meal or say in his final statement while strapped to the gurney. Okay, and then his wife steps in, right? And she says that he needs to completely, okay, let's see here. She felt, in essence, that Michael was helping to kill a person with whom he had a profoundly intimate relationship, intricate relationship with. And that would weigh on his conscience if he didn't know, exactly what Longo did and really understand it. So realizing that she was right, he wrote Longo a letter. He knew innately that any emotion-based argument would accomplish nothing, but he did have an idea. Longo, I believe, really wanted to enhance someone else's life, okay? And by sacrificing his own, a real-life version of that Will Smith movie, like we said, right? And Mike had spoken to a transplant surgeon and learned that the execution procedure, the sodium pentothal, then the pancuronium bromide, then the potassium chloride, rendered all the organs useless. Some skin could be saved and maybe the heart valves, but then his body could be donated to a medical school. It wasn't much. It didn't seem to fulfill his goal, and I told him so in my letter. The problem I wrote was that the state-administered death cocktail produced heart failure. If you were able to change the procedure, the law isn't specific about the precise drugs used, so that it induced brain death instead, the organs could be transplanted. And then, I continued, if you signed up other inmates and the idea went national, you might save the lives of dozens of people who would have died on organ waiting lists. Sounds like 10 years' work to me minimum, I wrote. And Longo was astounded by this, and he felt inspired. It's giving me goosebumps, he wrote. And in his single-minded way, Longo promptly dedicated himself to making this idea a reality, and he came up with a name, which is GAVE, G-A-V-E, Gifts of Anatomical Value from the Executed. With the help of his brother, he set up a website, which was gavelife.org. A photo of the first version of the home page showed a family riding a merry-go-round, mom, dad, and 2 grinning kids. I'm a death row inmate who wants to save lives, Longo wrote on the site. Not to set right my wrongs, as this is unfortunately impossible, but to make a positive out of an otherwise horrible situation. Instead of needing my help to distribute his body parts, Longo now wanted me to devote time to his new project. Okay, so he goes on and on about, he really got into this, he started making calls, he put himself into this completely. And then here we go. This is how see, it's at first though we had some unfinished business. Okay? Longo had vowed in return for Michael Finkel's help with this 7 pounds plan to tell him the truth about the murders, right? Truth he had never revealed. Does that sound familiar? Yes. Although my side of the bargain may have changed, his had not. So Michael Finkel went up to Salem, Oregon, and he went to the penitentiary. He walked in, he placed his belt, car keys, and cell phone in a dented metal locker, and he passed through a metal detector. He walked up a ramp and to the underground visiting area. He was escorted by a guard who set in motion enormous steel doors sliding on tracks, the slam and boom, the big skeleton keys, all the prison cliches that happened to be true, as he moved through a cinder block hallway and into an area of cube-like visiting booths. And he was assigned booth number 9. Before going there, he stopped at a small wooden table. There beneath a hand-lettered sign, the letter said, Lifers Club Photos. There was a pot-bellied man wearing a standard blue prison uniform and holding a digital camera. His name was Mark Holcomb. Through good behavior, he had earned permission to work as a kind of house photographer. Now, Mike hired him to take 4 photos of himself and Chris for $2 each. Later, Mike Finkel looked up this photographer's crime, and in 1999, Holcomb shot and killed a man during a home break-in. He was serving a 69.5-year sentence, but wasn't on death row. Mike sat down in a red cushioned chair in front of a plexiglass window with an old black telephone receiver mounted on the right-hand side of the wall. He looked into an empty booth. where another receiver hung, and he waited for Longo. His heart was racing. He felt sweat on his forehead. He wiped his palms on his pants, and then the light green door opened, and on the inmate side of the booth, and Longo walked in, his hands cuffed behind his back, and the door closed, sealing him into the booth. And he backed up a step, bent his knees a little, and stuck his wrist through the slot in the door, and an officer uncuffed him. And he sat on the stool, and he picked up his receiver. Now, it had been 5 years since they had seen each other face to face. Longo was wearing that light blue button-down shirt that said inmate in orange letters over the left pocket. His faded blue jeans and shiny white Nikes. He had a tiny soul patch of pale red hair centered just below his lower lip. He was 35 years old, but he still possessed a youthful, slightly freckled frat boy look, with wide-set ears, sharp, prominent Adam's apple. The photographer quickly snapped his shots and left us alone. We started casually talking about the easiest things that they were able to slip into when speaking with Longo. "So do I look older?" Mike asked. "No," he said. "You look as old as you've always looked." He put down the receiver and ran his hands through his hair to show me that it had started to thin. I feigned horror, and then leaned over to show him my far more advanced bald spot. "I blame my children for my hairline," I said. "The last time I'd seen him, I didn't have any. 3 kids in 37 months will do this to you." Longo said that he had 3 kids in 31 months, and it was the sort of opening I was looking for. I said I knew how quickly he built up a family and how young he was, and that I had personal insight into all the work and the energy and the money a trio of young children requires. I told him I now intimately understood the pressures and the exhaustion, the desire to be a great father, but also just out of your grasp, the desire to every once in a while be free again. Just go to a bar and get drunk and flirt with girls rather than come home at 5 o'clock to help cook a dinner you'll soon end up on hands and knees scrubbing off the floor. Then, with that play at empathy, I swiftly reviewed the last few months of his family's life, the fake checks, the drive west, his job at Starbucks, the realization that there was no way he could support his family, that he'd reached the end of the line. "How long before that final night did you know you were going to kill your family?" I asked. He said it was only a few hours while at work, and then he came to the decision. He said he couldn't see any other solution. He couldn't call his father and ask for money. He was too ashamed. He couldn't kill himself. He was too weak. He was a failure, he told me, and I didn't want to leave any witnesses to my failure. He said he didn't know how exactly he was going to do it, but that he'd made up his mind. I knew before I came home that night I was going to kill my family. I was locked on that thought. Maybe I knew this already, but the word still surprised me. Never before, not at his trial, not in our long correspondence, had Longo admitted this. When he came home from work, though it was very late, Mary Jane initiated lovemaking. He said, and soon he was naked and she was naked, and they were in the small one-bedroom condo, a nice place overlooking Yaquina Bay on the Oregon coast. And his older kids were asleep in the living room on a pull-out couch. Little Madison in their bedroom was sleeping on a sleeping bag on the floor. It was past midnight. He was making love to his wife. She was on top. He told me this in a clear, steady voice. But he would not make eye contact. Oh, sounds familiar. He was staring at the visiting booth floor, at the worn industrial carpeting. And it hit him, he said. It dawned on him right there that this was the opportunity, that this was the time, as they were having sex. And he reached up and he took her throat. Longo said that he didn't see any surprise in her face. He grasped his wife by the throat, grabbed with both hands. He said she didn't resist at all. It's possible, He said that she thought it was a little sudden sexual kinkiness, but he never let go. He squeezed and didn't stop squeezing. Longo told me that if he had a gun, he would have used it. But then immediately he changed his mind. Too messy, he said. He didn't want to make a mess. He said MJ, that's how he always refers to his wife, didn't really struggle. She didn't kick or claw her hands or make any noise at all. He said it was silent. She seemed to relax into it. She never looked at me. Her eyes were closed. She didn't fight me. She didn't seem terrorized. The TV was on. Softly. Longo couldn't recall what was playing, but he remembered the flickering blueness across the room, across his naked body and hers. He was still on the bottom. He was reaching up, grabbing his wife's neck with both hands, grabbing so hard his fingers dug deep, forming the scars that would be found when the divers opened the suitcase. It takes quite a long time to kill someone by strangulation, like 5 minutes, Longo said. It was long enough for him to think during the act that maybe he ought to stop. But then he figured he'd already begun, and if he stopped and MJ survived, then what? His wife would leave him, and he'd still be in trouble. When she was dead, he got up and he put on some clothes, and then he strangled their 2.5-year-old daughter, Madison, who was sleeping on the floor. He strangled her with one hand. That's how Longo described the feeling of strangling a 2-year-old neck, so soft and thin. To hold onto a little girl's neck is the most weird, uncomfortable, disgusting thing in the world. It tore me up to put my hands around something so small. It was so difficult, he said, that he could not strangle the 2 older children, and in fact, he said, he didn't finish the job on Madison. He said he remembered hearing her gasp and cry through the suitcase as he carried it out of the condo and dropped it into the December cold water where police divers found it 9 days later. Longo insisted he loved his family and that he never wanted harm to come to them. To this day, he said, seeing violence towards children on TV makes him angry. And that I remember, oh yeah, that's what I did. Even on that night, he decided to murder his family. If he had come home from work and an intruder was there trying to hurt his family, he said he would have tried to kill the intruder. Longo was clearly uncomfortable telling me this story, and he kept switching the phone receiver from ear to ear, but he remained composed. He talked about returning to the condo after dumping the bodies of his wife and baby in suitcases off a dock into the bay. He had no stomach for strangling anyone else, so he lifted Zachary and Sadie gingerly from their sleep, one at a time, and he nestled them in their car seats in the stolen minivan, which had the license plate Kid Van. He knew he was going to kill them, he said, but he still made sure they were properly buckled in. This was just the procedure. The kids never woke up. It was a chilly and wet December night, just a few degrees above freezing. As he started driving, he began to think that maybe he didn't have to conclude this. Okay, he remembered thinking, the worst is over, we've survived. Maybe just the 3 of them could go on. He recalled wondering if they'd wake up and ask for Mommy. How would he explain it? How would he get away with it? He couldn't answer those questions, and so decided it was too late. He started it, and now he had to finish it. I was committed to this thing, he said. I wanted a clean do-over. He pulled over on a residential street and picked up a couple of bowling ball-sized rocks. And then he drove to the bridge over a coastal inlet called Lint Slough, stopped halfway across, slid open the minivan doors as quietly as he could, and turned off the dome lights so that his children wouldn't wake up. He placed each rock into a pillowcase, and then, with the weighted pillowcase tied in a quick overhand knot to an ankle, he threw one child off the railing of the bridge. He walked around the van to the second car seat again, tied on a pillowcase, and dropped the other child off the opposite side. Here Longo stopped his story. He put down the phone and he rubbed his forehead with both hands. He picked it up again, but he didn't talk. He looked confused. And then he told me that he couldn't recall which child he dropped into the water first, Zachary or Sadie. He moved the receiver away from his ear again. He was silent for a long couple of beats. I can't remember, he said. His eyes grew glassy. He was quiet again. I can't remember who I threw in first. He stared ahead, not looking at anything. It seemed in a daze, hardly blinking. I can see the kids so clearly in my mind now, he said. You know when you catch a whiff of someone's scent, how vividly it brings back so many images? That's how I feel about my kids now. I can feel them, smell them, touch them in my mind. I can hear their voices, see their faces, but I can't remember who I killed first. A tear escaped from his left eye, just one. He wiped it away quickly. I can't remember who I killed first. Probably a full minute passed. His jaw trembled. He was pressing the phone so tightly to his head that his right ear turned scarlet. His knuckles, as he gripped the receiver, were white. I watched him struggle and squirm and try to recall which child he murdered first. I didn't say anything. He just couldn't remember. And that was how we left it. When I walked away from the visiting room, out of the prison, I felt sickened. I was mentally and physically exhausted. I couldn't even start my rental car. My hands were shaking. There was a leftover half sandwich in the passenger seat, and the smell made me nauseous. The crime still made no sense. Why didn't he just abandon his family, kill himself, call his parents, call his wife's family, call a helpline? These are the same questions I had 7 years ago, soon after I learned Christian Longo's name from the reporter at the Oregonian. These were the same questions I wondered about 5 years ago at the conclusion of his trial, and the exact ones I had last winter too when I set out to get his final answers. It's never been easy to say how I feel about Longo. I've been tugged from the start between revulsion and fascination, between hoping to know the truth and wanting to imagine that Longo couldn't actually murder his own family. But after hearing this story, there was no doubt. Hate seems too flat a word, too glib, but that is what I felt. I hated the crime. I hated hearing about it, thinking about it, imagining it, and I hated the person who did it. And it was the worst kind of hate, too, because it really didn't matter. There was nothing anyone could do to bring back Mary Jane or the children, or make this man who killed them with his porn stash and his caramel corn ever face adequate punishment, even if he is executed and carved into pieces. His days, he says, are now a flurry of letter writing and research pouring through law journals, gathering statistical data. He's contacting law schools, hospitals, legislators, attorneys, organ donating groups, transplant officials, anesthesiologists. He's seeking a support staff, hoping a law student or two is willing to take on gifts of anatomical value from the executed as a pro bono project. He constructed and mailed me an intricate 8-page outline of things he had to accomplish to make GAVE a success. By my count, there are 311 separate bullet points and 85 questions that need answers, covering everything from inmate transportation to hospital security to the cost of follow-up care, etc. Longo's hope is that inmates, and not just those on death row, will be allowed to both make living anatomical donations, kidney, liver lobes, bone marrow, and then for those who are executed to give away all their major organs. More than 100,000 Americans are on organ transplant waiting lists. The median time to receive a kidney, the organ most in demand, is 1,219 days. About 14,000 people donate organs every year. There are 2.4 million people incarcerated in the United States. Longo's goal is to inspire 1% of them to participate in the living donation program each year. That's nearly 24,000 people. If he even came close to achieving that, it would more than double the nation's supply of available organs. But is this even possible? I asked a veteran Oregon attorney. Yes, it is technically possible, but highly improbable, as one lawyer said, summing up the consensus. Longo's endeavor is harmless. Unlikely to get anywhere, but won't cause any damage. Longo works on the project every day, from breakfast to midnight, with notes on his desk reminding him where to start the next morning. Yard was canceled today, and I'm actually grateful for the extra 90 minutes, he wrote in one letter. I have never in all the years I've known him seen him so driven, so excited about something, and yes, so happy. He has a mission, a focus, a purpose. In a way, the project has transported him beyond the prison walls. He decided not to drop his appeals after all. Rather, he's aggressively pursuing them with full force, like putting off his execution date by at least a decade. He needs the time, he says, to work on Gabe. He wants to live. It's odd. He was the one person on earth I wanted to die, and instead I've helped to save his G-damn life. So, we can discuss this. I'm going to end this video. We can discuss it in a live.
I'm not ending this video.
I may play this
Stay right
video
where
in the
you are.
live depending on how soon it
Hold
gets
on.
there so that everybody
me
sees
stop
it. I
this.
don't know how we'll handle it because I do want to discuss this.
Okay. No, hold on. I'm here. Don't go anywhere. Let me get this off here. Okay. All right. I couldn't type because if I typed, I couldn't shut the microphone off. You'd just hear typing the whole time. So I was here, but I couldn't type anything. And sorry to Tori, you lost your mom. Sorry about that. I know how hard that is. And Angel Callie, you're getting your brother. I hope that goes well. All right, so I don't know that this is not, it's still on that picture. Must be delayed on the live stream that I'm saying because I don't see myself coming up. So what did you think there? Hold on, back to the. Hi Diana. Hi everybody. Not on mute, right? Okay, let me turn the microphone on. Hold on a sec. I'm good now. Okay. Yeah, it was a shocking story. We covered it last year, but then there were a lot of similarities now. And there's something like really poignant at the end where he's just so disgusted because he was after all these answers. And it's the same way that we are looking for answers in Watts, but we're never going to get answers. We're just going to get different confessions that are going to keep getting worse because it's just the way that they do it. And I know Jay Bells was saying she wanted to come on and talk about, I don't know if she was asked, because that's the pattern of these annihilators. You can listen to that story all night. So they're just going to keep saying stuff, but once you get to a certain, you don't know what's true, and they're going to make it horrific. Jay Bells, she's a member of our community, Leanne. I know she just asked me before. But it is, like to want to know the, to try to get answers, but we just don't get them. And I just have to say, oh, I know what I wanted to say. Did you see the what is going on? That's funny, right, Evie? That's funny. What Evie said. Jay Bells is the best on family annihilators. Like that would only be, you'd only describe your friend like that. Wait a minute, let me get my friend Jay Bells. She's the best on family annihilators. Most people are like, let me get my friend Judy. She's really good at accessorizing those outfits. Let me get my friend Jay Bells. She's really good on family annihilators. She's the best, actually. She can't match a scarf to save her life, but she will tell you about those family annihilators. Oh my gosh. Sorry, that just sounded so funny, Evie. Okay. Yeah, so I'll set your cough up, okay? You sent me an update about Mike Jones. Okay, I'll look at that in 1 second. I just want to give an update about I'm finding, okay, with this book, Letters from Christopher, that this author, whatever she's telling us, she can't iron to save her life. She's walking around with wrinkles upon wrinkles. She can't bake, but Family Annihilator, she's got that. If you need some help on that. You tell your family about watching true crime and they're just like, oh, okay. They don't get it. Just like most people would not get what Evie said. They would be like, what? She's the best on Family Annihilators? And you're hanging out with her? Cannot keep a plant. Sharon loves to iron. She's an ironing fool. I saw that, Leanne, but there was nothing with nothing is what I'm trying to say. I'm starting to get that she's just... There's nothing that we're hearing, okay, except two little tiny things maybe that he said about the oxy, okay? So far, like, she was asked something like, what was the one that, and she goes, oh yeah, I've got that. And then you go to say it and she says nothing. I'm trying to think about which one it was. There was a question about, oh, did he tell you about, oh, I know what it was. Did he told you about the doll photo? Oh, yes, I have new information about the doll photo. Well, what is it? Oh, okay. It was that he took the doll photo, but his mom said she took it. I'm thinking to myself, we knew that. Nothing. You gave us nothing. We knew that. And then whatever she would say, we already know it. She's just making it sound like it's new stuff. Oh, good night, Caroline. So that was really weird, like, because she hasn't said anything earth-shattering. Okay, I mean, a stupid thing where he says they woke, I mean, just that's lies. And then there's something else she said, and then she was asked, well, is that in the book or what? No, I don't have, so it's like, okay, it's not very credible to me, I don't know. But, yeah, what Cindy's writing, Melly Mel, is completely her own fabrication. Now, the other thing is did you see that there's more problems on her website now? About this book? She can't even get in contact with the publisher. How bad is that? She put a post up today that said they can't get in contact with the publisher and everyone should cancel their orders and order from another source. And then the people were saying, oh, it's at Walmart for $11 and I'm getting it tomorrow with the 2-day shipping. So now she must be thinking, like, I don't even know how, she said on one interview, the reason she went with this publisher, she wanted control where the book was distributed. But she doesn't have control if it's being sold at Walmart for $11. Something is really whacked here. And so wait, let me just get back to that thing. Because I was like, this morning I was like, what the heck is going on? It sounds crazy. And someone says this publisher keeps changing names. And it was probably, I don't know, somebody said they might have looked into it or not. I don't know if anyone did, to see what it was. Okay, so now she edited this. So let's see, she edited this. Maybe she got some flack. This is for those who don't want to wait for Dorans to ship. They told us they were shipping last week, which is why we posted that. And then she says, it's us again. Unfortunately, after many phone calls back and forth, Dorans is not supplying us with satisfactory resolutions. We are still working on this, and it's not the outcome we would like. But at this point, our suggestion is to cancel your order with Dorans and order with Barnes & Noble, who currently has the books in stock. We're getting a list of all who pre-ordered, and we'll be reaching out to you directly as well. Okay. And then the comments in here, are just crazy. It's, this is absolutely ridiculous. I pre-ordered on September 24th. My payment wasn't processed until September 29th, and now you're telling me I need to cancel my order. I emailed Dorans 5 days ago and still haven't heard anything back, and now I have to wait some business days to receive funds back to reorder the book, all while the books are being leaked and discussed left and right, and yet I have no clue as to what the status is of my order that I was told would be shipped on the 7th. This is such poor business. And then there's a bunch of people talking about the leaked copies and saying that they're just going to cancel and not reorder anything because this book is going to be leaked way before they get their copy, and they're not paying for, the stuff is going to be leaked. And it's just crazy. Now what is this one? Someone says, listen to this one. They may have broke the law. According to the Federal Trade Commission, however many credit card issuers do not allow merchants to charge your credit card before they ship. If you want to pursue this, okay, they're going to worry about pursuing that right now, right? Okay. Now they're saying it's not her fault. So then somebody says, yeah, it may not be her fault, but how is she going to make it up? And then somebody's right hand on the, what side says, why does she need to make it up? It's not her fault that the publishing company is incompetent. Cancel your order. Wait a couple of days for a refund. Order through someplace else and have the book in a few days. I don't understand why everyone is acting like it's her fault and going at her with pitchforks. It isn't productive or fair. It's just, I'm trying to get to the Walmart, one of the Walmart comments. I wonder if they took them down. They probably have somebody taking them down because she doesn't want anybody to order on Walmart. Oh, here's someone said, let's say, Walmart also has them available to pick up Thursday for $11 or delivered. Somebody else said, it's been an absolute farce. I canceled my order and I demanded a refund. And then somebody said, what the heck? This doesn't even make sense. You said they begun shipping, so which one is it? And then people want a digital version. Walmart now has them for $11. Just crazy. How can we be assured that if we cancel our orders, we're going to get our refunds? I'm nervous about this. We couldn't even be assured to get our books. If you don't get a refund, dispute it back with your credit card. Yeah, this is lovely, isn't it? Okay, so Cindy and her author friend. What happened? That's the letters, yeah, from Christopher Sassy Darcy. It's a big PR stunt? Oh, I don't think it's a stunt. Nobody would want this. Not at all, Carol. No, she didn't write it herself, Sharon. It was someone's right-hand woman. Someone, CK's right-hand woman that wrote that. Walmart doesn't have any left? Okay. But she must make very little on Walmart since they're only selling it for $11, which I don't understand how the publishing company worked then, because she was all over that first interview saying she wanted to self-publish it with a company like this because she wanted the rights to the book. She wanted to decide where the book goes. She didn't want it on any bargain bin. And now the first day it's out, Walmart cuts the price. What, $8 a book? I don't know what you're going to the biggest Christmas store. Oh, where? Bronner's? I did a review for them once. I had to do a review with them once. They sent me, I have to go on my blog. I've had friends that went there too, in a group. When are you going? You'll do a video? I know it well. I mean, I've done a review with them where they sent me stuff, and I have friends that went there. And they took a bunch of pictures, yeah. Well, that sounds like fun. See if they have any of the vintage deer stuff. Oh, Deborah wants to call in? Okay. Did you send me an email? Let's see. Oh, boy. Fight. You have to have it. What? The book, Sybil? Are you getting the book, Sybil? The deer stuff, yeah. I think Annie Cuckoo. And guess what? I just want to say something. Jimmy and those stupid darn Levi freaking pants, right? Today, I'm not kidding you. It is so disgusting here. It's just raining. Straight rain, rain, rain. So he's taking down that house, right? You like those jeans, Bethany? So he comes home, I don't know what time. So he then goes, now listen to this one, but I'm going to get to her call in 1 second, I promise. But just listen to this because I want to see if I'm nuts. We're not buffering. I'm here. We're okay. You're okay? We're not offline. Don't say that. Are we here now or not? We're not here? We're back now. Oh no. We're here or we're back? Are we back? Here? No? We're here. Okay. So it's a cold, raw, you know, a disgusting rain. You don't even want to go out in it. Like if you had to go out in it, you hate it, but you don't want to go out in it if you don't have to, right? He goes like this. Hey, we had to, cut off. I have the rest of the day, and I'm thinking let's all go down to the outlet mall somebody was on here the other day and they called it the outlet mall by New York City. I don't call it the outlet mall by New York City because it's still not really near New York City, but it's an outlet mall. And you know how an outlet mall is. You've got to walk around outside, right? Not only from the parking lot to the outlet mall, but from store to store, even if you're under the darn thing, right? The Woodbury Commons, Danielle, right? You know Woodbury Commons, right? So I'm thinking like, that is the last freaking place I want to go on a day like this, right? So I go, oh my gosh, I don't want to go there. That would be horrible. And he goes, oh, all right, well, you think about it, because now, see, our kids are on different buses now. So Ethan gets home pretty early. He gets home like before 3, but Luke doesn't get home till a little after 4. So he said, well, if Ethan gets home and then we pick Luke up at the school, we could just scoot right down there. And I'm like, scoot right down there? Wait a minute, this is going to be a long, I was just like, and the rain makes you feel tired and I hate it. They're changing, Tori, they are. I want to get the drone up in the air. I tell Jimmy all the time, he buys these darn drones and he doesn't use them. It drives me crazy. You froze behind there for 6 hours? At the Woodbury? Hey, J-Bells, we just heard that you can't iron or match scarves with accessories. You can't accessorize to save your life, but that you're the best on Family Annihilators. You'll have to go back in the chat. Anyway, so I said no. So then finally Ethan gets home and he's like, do you want to go to school? And he goes, well, should we just decide when Luke gets home? Luke walks in and Luke is like, it's a Monday. The kids are exhausted. Oh, how many stores are you going to go in? And I'm just like, I'm not going. And he goes, it's raining really bad. It's not going to stop. It's probably not a good thing to go. He acts like it's his idea. So, I don't know. But, no, Evie said something like, I said, I thought you wanted to come on and talk about it. And Evie said, oh, J-Bells, she's the best, or something on Family Annihilators. And I said, that sounded really weird. If you would say that in a regular conversation with some friends sitting around a table, like, oh, who's coming to lunch? Oh, we got our friend J-Bells coming. She's the best on Family Annihilators, because you don't normally say stuff like that. You say, like, we've got our friend J-Bells coming. She could really help you out with accessorizing those outfits. And then I think Danielle said, yeah, but she probably can't iron. So you have to go back to understand it. You're never going to live it down, are you? Even no. It was just strange reading that. I don't think too many people, but a lot of people would probably get up off the table when you said, yeah, she's coming to lunch. She's really very good, the best on Family Annihilators. Oh, okay. I've got to go. Kids want me. All right. Sounded crazy. So let me see now. We just finished the Chris Longo. Do you have any time to come on and talk now, or are you busy? You would be, Hennessy, but I think a lot of the mainstream people that we deal with would probably get up and walk away to win it. I think so. And then dessert. And we're having cheesecake too. Oh, good. Have I heard about Albert Fish? No. But so I don't know if who would you be willing, would you want to go to an outlet mall in the rain like today, Danielle? Would that be, hey, yeah, let's go do that. Those stupid jeans. It was horrible. Was it raw by you, Danielle? It was like disgusting. He's like, it's not really that cold. I'm like, ugh. I was right there with, I was messaging JLs and I said, today is like the day that I'd like to report live from my bed, because it was just so, ugh. I hate it. You got new rain boots. That's good. I know it rained, and it's raining. It's like just constant. It's going to rain. I think he said it's going to rain tomorrow too. Leisha, that was from a bunch of different things. I think that the one about that might have. You can go there. I gave the website. You can check that out and see if it's there, or just put in Chris Longo gave, and I'm sure you'll find. Or I can check it in a minute too. I'm just trying to figure out if nobody's answering me. Did she answer me? I'll check it out, Leisha, in just a sec. No, not Cindy. Cindy said Shanann took the picture. Chris said he took the picture. Oh, another day. So the family annihilator expert slept in late. See, she can't even get up on time. I hope that you sent an email, Deborah. Which one you need the transfer paper for? What kind of transfer paper? The heat transfer paper, that's expensive paper. This is not a hobby for the frugal, is it? Okay, so let me get this. You're still buffering? Did you find it, Leisha? You had better brush up than I think the clock setting skills, the ironing skills. No good now? You're good? Who's no good now? Oh, we're good now. Who blocked you? Who, Jenna, what are you saying blocked me? Who blocked you? You're not blocked. We couldn't see you if you were blocked. Oh, you had to find it, Leisha? I can find it while we're waiting for Deborah. Oh, I think Deborah's here. That was fast. That was really fast. She's a speed dialer. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. I just was having a think about Cindy and Chris.
I like that. I like that word, think about. I'm going to start using that. A think about.
I think that, I've just sort of come up with this. It's not a reason why he killed, but it's a perception of Cindy, how she brought up her children. And some of her, in her book, some of her claims are below expectation of what a normal mother would want for her.
Uh-oh, we lost Deborah. She's gone. She was gone as quickly as she came. I'm sure she'll be back. But I like that think about and a walkabout. I want to start using some of that. Hey, listen, I was just having a think about. Can you have a think about while you're taking a walkabout? Does anybody have that? Hey, listen, Susie, I was just having a think about while I was out for a walkabout.
Someone called and I meant to delete their call, but I accidentally deleted it. My son is a mechanic, but why would you have an expectation that your son would be working on cars and be a mechanic? Okay, that's one thing. So he's had lack of direction.
Right.
But also, she said when he was 24, she was so proud of him because he bought a car for $11,000 and he had money in the bank.
Right.
Okay. My son at 30 built a $1.6 million house. You see the different expectations of mothers and what they expect of their children, and that has come across in everything she's done with her children about she's broke, she's got no money, she doesn't want to have a lavish engagement or wedding shower or whatever. So her perception of Shanann was very different to someone else that son may have ended up with Shanann. Someone else may have thought, wow, she's a go-getter, really good. Geez, you've got to catch there because, you know, she works hard, she achieves her goals, she sets her sights very high. You know, it's all about, he's had a lifelong of probably not being made that he could have achieved many goals in life, really. I mean, if I had a child that had 150 IQ, they wouldn't be a mechanic.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's just like, did her and Ronnie graduate from college? Probably not, right?
No,
so
that's
yeah, right. And
I think she's not the brightest tool in the shed.
Right, and then, you know, I think she also, you know, there's something like she's always saying how frugal she is in the small house she lives in. And we know that, you know, North Carolina is a very cheap place to live, and then the homes, it didn't cost a lot. They don't even cost a lot now, you know, where she is. So how is she so in the hole if she maintains that, right?
Absolutely. Well, you know, she's done. Okay. She's done in a lot of aspects of life. I'm not talking about, I don't know what her IQ is and all that, but she's very backward in her thinking and in her outlook in life. And this may have actually led Chris to believe that he didn't have a lot of options in life, you know, and even in his marriage, I mean, he's an exceptionally smart man, but really dumb. I mean, you know, so Cindy's way she brought up her children, or especially him, was not to promote his strengths, not to help him achieve goals, not to extend himself. It was to work to come below himself at all times.
See, I don't think he's that smart. I think he's very mechanically inclined. I think he has an aptitude for that type of stuff. I don't think, and people say, well, he's got book smarts. He has memorization skills, but he really doesn't process what he's doing. He's not really into any literature. He's only in certain areas, does it seem. And so many times when he was being interviewed, he was like a deer in the headlights and didn't even know what they were talking about. And says
I think that's something to do with he obviously does have some, I don't know whether it's Asperger's or some sort of personality disorder. But, you know, I just think that she didn't help him achieve the goals that he could have achieved had he have had a different mother. His expectations on life. I mean, you know, this, I'm in debt. You know, not thinking, look at the beautiful house we have. Yeah, okay, we've overextended ourselves. How are we going to get out of that? You know, are we going to sell and upsize? And giving him alternatives to, and teaching him how to live life. You know, and I think that he really, I agree, he does have a personality disorder. But, you know, if it's a fact that he does have I think it was 152 IQ, that's pretty damn amazing. And I know people can have a high IQ and, you know, not you know, what I'm talking about, smart in the ways of the
right,
world.
Yeah, common sense and stuff like that. Yeah. Right.
But I think he have had the right encouragement and the right nurturing, he could have been a totally different person to who he is. So, you know, I think she can blame herself a lot for him, how he's turned out to be. And,
well, definitely, I think, like, when he was having problems with Shanann, instead of, especially, like, most people, if their children come to them with that and their children have 2 children and 1 on the way, they're going to try to encourage them to work it out. And I think because how much she just absolutely hated Shanann, and how much Jamie hated Shanann, it was almost like they wanted the marriage to fail. Not only because they thought they would get Chris back, but I think it was more so that they could say, look at Shanann, she failed at the marriage thing twice. Our Jamie didn't. Our Jamie got it right the second time, but it was just like to make her look worse. I don't think it was so much to get Chris back as to make Shanann look bad. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
what do you think would have happened if Cindy would have welcomed her with open arms and tried really hard to have a good relationship with her? We can't always help how we feel. When I met my husband, he wasn't working. He was a tape. And, years later, and he turned out to be a mechanical engineer and, he provided very well. But my dad said to me, how do you think I felt when you brought this long-haired guy home that wasn't working? But you know what? He never, ever, ever once told me that. And so, you guide your children, you try and do the best. It's no one's business. Once your children have decided who they're going to marry, it's no one's business except theirs. Yes, if you see abuse, physical abuse, maybe then you step in. But Cindy was never going to be happy. And in effect, I had a mother-in-law the same, similar, was never going to be happy till she had her son back in her arms. And in fact, on the day of his funeral, my in-laws had an after thing after the Greek ceremony where everybody went back to a Greek hall and it's a bit like a wedding, but it's a wake.
Right.
My children and myself did not even get to sit at the main table. They sat there with all their relatives. The widow and his children had to sit in the audience with the other children. So, I'm a really strong character, and so was Shanann. And, that did cause a lot of, the way they treated me did cause a lot of problems in our marriage. And I could tell you stories that would make your head spin. But, my husband and I just tried not to talk about them,
Right.
And we dealt with each situation as it came to hand. I found that after he died, I did cop it quite a lot, and I had to actually end up cutting ties with them. But it's how we make a decision in life on how we're going to handle a situation. Now, if she'd have embraced Shanann, no matter how she felt about her, if she'd have embraced her and tried to be, a loving mother-in-law, offer support when needed, shut up when needed,
Right.
this outcome would have been totally different. And I think that Chris
Sure. Yeah,
concerned.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely, you can't, I mean, if you don't make the best of it, I mean, like I said, my son has had a girlfriend that at first I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know. And like my daughter's like more that she's like, oh, just because she was a little older than him. But I'm just like, let me go out and let me see. I'm not going to, just do that. Now, it wasn't like he married her. It was, but even if he had, I would have not caused waves, okay? Like like I said, unless someone's like abusing your grandkids or like doing something like really bad, but none of that. You just can't go because you don't say that you get along, or it's all a matter of your attitude and everything. And if you have these things, but I think they didn't want, him with her because of how it made them feel.
Yeah, well, one of the things I said to one of my in-laws was, your brother had the choice of any woman he wanted to marry. Not saying that he was a Casanova, but he chose to marry me. He could have chosen to marry someone else or whatever. So why do you disrespect that choice so much? You're disrespecting him because you're disrespecting me. And that is true. It's not, my children, I remember once my daughter was going out with somewhat of a loser, and when we did get our big rear projection TV, 135 cinema, I did comment that she perhaps could live in there with a future husband.
Yeah.
That was a joke. But
no,
I support all my children, no matter what choices they make. I might not be happy with them all, and I sort of don't always agree with my daughter and son-in-law with their choices or, how they do things. But, for example, my daughter swears a lot in front of their children. I never did that. And, but I don't say anything anymore because they know my stance. I've set my point, and so be it. You know, that's
Right.
it. That's
Yeah.
their decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you push again, with kids, the more you push against it, the more they go towards it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right,
So
yeah.
I just think that, I know people don't like Cindy. I mean, I don't particularly like her. But I think she's just as guilty as Chris, really. I think that she's played a big part in this. And had he not been scared to go home to his mother and say, look, I mean, his mother would have been over the moon, but, he obviously felt that he couldn't leave the marriage for whatever reason, and I mean, there's all sorts of reasons going around about firsts and all that stuff, but I still think if your son's miserable, that he would go home to mum and dad and say, look, this is where I am. But he said nothing, really, did he?
Well, I think he did say stuff at the end, and that's when they came up with that stupid, no, I think she was so happy. She called Mark. He finally saw the light. I think he was going back. She thought he was going back, and he was going to, get rid of the house, and she was happy. They were so happy because
well, that's ridiculous. Why would you be happy about your children's misery?
Right. Well, but she thought he had seen the light. She said it right in that first interview. One of those interviews she did right after was the discovery came out, that I thought he had finally seen the light. Is what she said.
Well, you know what? If she watches this, she needs to be in jail as well. If my children had come to me and said, look, or my daughter said, look, son, my marriage isn't working out, I'd say, look, I'm really, really sorry. What can I do to help? Is there anything I can do to help? Can I take the pressure off you in some way? And then I would say to the other party, I'm really sad to hear this, and I hope that we can maintain some sort of friendship. I mean, there's just nothing that was right about her. Nothing.
Yeah.
And, so I was just thinking that about her book. I heard someone else reading some of her book, and I thought her expectations were so low of her children. Even she said she had a mansion.
Right.
I don't doubt that it was a nice house, but no ways would it have been a mansion. Where is she living? Under a rock?
Yeah, I mean, she's, in a very, very, very small house, and I don't know that she's ever, she's been out there to, their other house, and she's seen the houses around there, so it's not like she hasn't seen, I don't know, I think she's just trying, I don't know, she was just really jealous.
Delusional.
Yeah, and very jealous, and just, I don't know, just...
Well, if I was her, I couldn't live with myself. I'd be taking a long, hard look at myself, and I'd be going, you know what?
But see, narcissists never believe they did anything wrong. Even if you catch them red-handed, they'll make an excuse. It wasn't them. It wasn't them.
Yeah.
You'll never get them to admit anything that they did is wrong. They'll say, oh, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I tried. It wasn't me. You have no idea. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I know firsthand there's lots of things that my in-laws did to me, and it, in our marriage, we were married for 23 years when he died, and just about every fight we had was because of his family.
Yeah, I mean, in-laws can be really, very detrimental. You have a chance, to be, a good person, or really just make things really hard. And I don't know why you would want to do that. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, even if, like I say, my son's brought home someone I didn't like. Now, if it's like, didn't like her because, she's doing something really, really bad. But if it's just like, something I just didn't think that, I thought they could do better, or whatever it is, I still wouldn't, I'd still try to make it work, and not be just a jerk, because I know that nothing's good, and I want a relationship with my son, and they have kids and stuff like that. I don't want to alienate all of that, so I try to do the right thing there.
Yeah, well, how could you not go to the wedding? I mean, it's not.
Oh, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Devil worshipping, Shanann was like a devil worshipping whatever, you know. Like
how would you not go?
Like
you know, like here's the thing. How would you miss the wedding of your son?
No.
Because I mean, did she really didn't care that her son was getting married? It didn't matter. You know, she missed that. She would never get that back again. And she was so filled with hate, she wouldn't go. Yeah. Okay.
Do you think it was stubbornness or hate?
I think she was full of hate, and I think she expected him. It was a battle of wills for her, and she wanted him to call off the wedding maybe, and she just dug her heels in. And let's see, if he goes through with this, if he doesn't choose me, you know, they didn't speak for a long time after that, not until Shanann announced her pregnancy. Yeah. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have probably had them at my house if I was Shanann come and help me, you know, come to stay. But I think that, she just, you know, when you have your children, you raise your children, you know, they're your children, like you've got your little children now and you've got your older children. But you know, you've got both ages. You know that when they get to a certain age, they become independent and they make their own choices in life.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's right. And the very thing you want for your children is for them to be happy and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they've got a good job and they've got money coming in, they don't have problems, that helps. But your aim is for them to have a happy, healthy life,
mm-hmm.
to be content, to have, you know, if they want to have my son, I don't know that they'll ever have children, you know, and he's 30, what is he now, 32? And his wife's 34. And I said to him, you know, I love children. I've got 5 grandchildren. I said to him, if you don't really, really want children, don't have them. Don't have them for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's such a big commitment that you really want to need to have them to fulfill your life. And you know, it's okay if he doesn't want to have children. I never thought I would have said that to any of my children. But I know them and I know their lifestyle, and you know, so you look at each individual child and you probably suit them, how you give them advice, how you treat them, you know, your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I you know, it wouldn't have mattered to me if my children think that this person they're marrying is the best thing in the world, then I will, okay, I'm with you, 100%, I'm with you.
Right.
And I'm there to catch them if they fall. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, you have to. I think so, too. Like I said, unless, you know, like they have children, she's endangering your grandchildren, you know, doing something that's just crazy, you know, you just because, you just have to try to get off on the right foot from the beginning and not put that. I don't understand. Like, I don't get it, because I've never been a mother like that with my older sons, especially. Like, some of these mothers, they don't want their sons to get married because they think they're going to lose them and this and that. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you seeing anyone? Are you seeing, you know, it's just like...
Well, because you want them to have a good, happy life.
Right, yeah. And, just like, you know, okay, I was like, my goal is not for them to be unmarried and be, you know, like, hey, can you take me shopping today? Like, you know, 90 or something, you know, it's just like...
Yeah,
that's,
pushing your trolley around.
Yeah. So, like...
we've run out of weekends. No, you know what? If that happens, I'm not saying you've failed your children if that happens, but it's disappointment for you to look back. You know, I've got one daughter that probably, as I've told you, has mental health issues. She has the 3-year-old son, and I help her an awful lot. And my biggest concern is that when I die,
mm-hmm.
who's going to take my place? You know, if she had someone that could love her, I mean, I don't think she'd ever have a long-term relationship because she just can't deal with them. You know, people get too close to her and she just pushes them away. But, you know, it's a huge concern to me. But I just want all my children happy, independent, paying their own bills, you know, looking after themselves, functioning as a you know, decent human
mm-hmm.
being as an adult.
Right.
So that if I drop off the planet tomorrow, they might be sad. I hope they'd be sad, but they can go on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and where's Ronnie's part in all this? Oh my God, that man needs to open his mouth.
Yeah,
And
no,
tell
I
his
mean,
wife to
we
shut
all
up.
know the mama's boy, like the ones, I mean, I knew this guy once, and it was just crazy, and how they don't see it themselves. Like, these parents had two kids, they had a boy and a girl, right? And the mother had been an independent woman, she had been working. Well, anyway, the father died, and the daughter, she got married, and I don't know, she like got the heck away from there. There wasn't a close relationship. But the mother and the son, well, especially after the father died, his life revolved around the mother. He bought a house with the mother. Anyone he dated, he got married even once, and then he got a divorce. It was almost like to move back with the mother. And then he got to the point that if my mother dies, he said he was going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's like, it's nuts. And what mother would like, you could see that this mother, as much as she wanted him to get married, maybe because when she died, who would be around, she still didn't want him to get close to anyone. It was like a really weird dynamic. And that his mother eventually did die, but he's still whacked out of his head.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he'll ever have a relationship with anybody because of all that. He probably just sits there at night and ruminates about it, his mother. I mean, and that's not healthy.
She shouldn't have allowed him to live with her. You know, fair enough that they don't have a partner or whatever, but she should have steered him in the direction of creating some sort of life of his own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and said, look, no, you can't come and move in with me. I want you to go and get your own place.
Well, no, he didn't move in with her. He bought a house and moved her in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would have said no to that. You know, I mean, you know, I would have said no. If my children are married and, you know, and I get old and I need help, maybe then. But if, you know, I think that you've got to stay independent. I'm 62. I'm running 2 businesses. I have my house. I look after every single bit of everything in my life. I look after.
Mm-hmm.
Any maintenance on my house, I either do it myself or I find someone to help me do it. I don't rely on my children for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I think maybe I'm a little bit too much the other way, but you know, I'm responsible for me.
Right.
And I want my children to be responsible for them.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if we raise I'm not saying I've raised my children well. You know, I've had a daughter with drug issues, and you know, she's had sexual assaults and that. You know, and if I had my time again, I'd probably do things a little bit differently. But all I ever want my children is to achieve their goals, to become independent, have happy lives, and be healthy and have happy, healthy grandchildren.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, that's what we aim for. And Sydney, absolutely fun. I wonder if it's generational. I wonder what her mother was like, Sydney's upbringing was like.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, her mother's the one that Cindy was working. That's another thing. That was 2 incomes, right? In a state that is very cheap to live, in a house that shouldn't have had big, huge payments. You know, what happened? You're trying to tell me that Jamie's wedding, Sarah Jamie's wedding, just they put their entire life savings into her wedding? I mean, and then it was over. That's, first of all, it's not smart. Second, you know, they should have even made that back by now. I mean,
absolutely. And you know, maybe, you know, he had an addiction to drugs. I don't know how much.
But yeah, they say only a year. Yeah, and she thought he was having an affair, but the mother was picking the kids up, and he was staying with the mother. So he was raised a lot by the grandmother as well, because his mom was working. So, you know, then did his mother not pay him any attention? Or usually the mothers will be close to the sons. I don't know. It's just, I don't get it, especially as little boys, right?
Yeah, and I understand her adoring her son. I adore my son, you know, and we can't put ourselves in this, you know, in this, what's happened to her, you know, I couldn't even imagine to try and put myself in that place. But I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't be doing, spouting my mouth to the media.
Yeah, well, she shouldn't have
In
done that.
such a way.
She shouldn't have done that, and she did it again. And then she had her spokespeople. She never said she was sorry, and then she goes and writes a book that's 10 times worse.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe she should have gone into book writing 30 years ago. She might be in a different place.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. At 30 year, yeah. Have you seen how she writes? Oh my god. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. But like just like little things. They lived in North Carolina and he didn't know how to light a fire.
Yeah.
That was insane. That was insane. It really was.
Mommy always did everything for him.
You know,
again, not giving him the skills to life.
Yeah, that was just. There's so many things that are just really whacked with the kid.
I mean,
the guy.
My husband was really good around the house, and you know, he pretty much lived for us. He didn't go out drinking or go out to the club, and you know, he was really handy. And from me watching him doing all these things around the house, after he passed away, I was able and had the confidence to then go and do those things myself. Mm-hmm. You know, I've done some tiling at one of my daughter's houses. I've painted. I've recut all the skirting boards. I mean, the night before my son's wedding, I was round with a circular drop sword, changing the skirting boards.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But it was because I watched my husband do those things.
Right, and now you've got YouTube and you can watch people do stuff and you take on stuff that you never have. But for him not to be able, I mean, we came up here in the summer and I mean, every friend I had we all knew how to light fires. We all had, it would be insane. We were doing that at 8 years old. Maybe
exactly.
Who doesn't know how to light a fire that lives in the country? And
it's like a mother that doesn't let you in.
It's not like he grew up in Manhattan, you know, like where he couldn't put a fire, you know, I mean, just like, oh, don't, but even then, you know, I don't know. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I think, yes, you know, you show your children, I mean, my son used to follow my husband around like you know, one come in the door, the other one followed. And I remember saying to my husband one day, please don't show him how to do that electrical work because he's like 10. I don't want him doing the rewiring.
Yeah.
On the house.
And I wonder if Chris did things around the house, because I know her father did a lot. And she had said in one video her father was coming to build shelves, I think in that closet in her office where she had all of her shoes. Her father did that. And then there was another thing with the cabinets. I don't know if they replaced their cabinets in the kitchen, or you wouldn't think so on a new house, but they yeah, he had to do something in the kitchen, but he did it. He didn't say her father and Chris. They said he did it.
I don't think Chris did anything except mow the lawns.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think and yes, you hear that he helped the father with the car or whatever that he said down in North Carolina, but I don't hear Chris like doing it. Not even painting, like all that painting she had done. I don't think he even had, like, you don't see that or hear that he did any of that.
No, I realise that, and I think, and you know, if that was my husband, he would have had a roller in his hand. I can tell you, if I'm doing it, you're doing it too.
Yeah.
When we used to do the lawns, I used to mow and he used to whip the snip. You know,
right.
We'd paint together, and that's what you do. I mean, you know, no one's doing them any favour. And some people just aren't skilled in that area, and I understand that. Some people have got two left thumbs when it comes to things, but get in there and give it a go.
Alma
you don't know what you
says
can achieve in life if you don't give it a go.
There's a picture of him, Alma says, installing the ceiling fans. Is there a picture of...
Well, you know what? He should have been able to do that. The job that he held, you know, he should have been able to do that. And I think in Australia, you really can't do any of those things unless you hold a licence. I mean, I suppose the home handyman could get away with it, but, you know, I think in America you can install those things without having a licence, can't you?
Oh,
he should have been capable of so much more.
You know, Jimmy always goes to the Home Depot and says he's a licensed electrician because he does a lot of electrical work, but he's not a licensed electrician. But he always fools around at the Home Depot. He's like, it's okay, I can do it. I'm going to put in another outlet because I'm a licensed electrician. And they all look at him, and I'm like, no, he's not. But he does. He does a lot of electrical work.
My husband was held in very high regard in his position, and then when he left, he formed his own company. So he worked at one of the local mines down here, and he was a mechanical engineer, and he would look at projects and find resolutions to the problem. He actually invented a machine to separate gas and water from one of the mines 5 k's under the ground. But you know, I said to him one day, "You are so full of shit," and he said to me, "You know what? It's not what you know; it's what you make other people think you know in life." So, you know, it's bluffing your way through. I mean, if you don't know, you find out, don't you? It's bluffing your way through life.
Right.
And I think sometimes he probably was a little bit out of his depth, but he found out how to achieve what he wanted to achieve. And so it's getting in, having a go, doing your best, and you know, and I think there again, the expectations on Chris weren't very high in life, and that came from Cindy's own expectations of herself and her life. She so much needs to go and have psychological counselling.
Yeah, definitely, yep. And
maybe we could all chip in.
That's okay. I'd rather spend my money on a worthwhile cause.
Yeah. Anyway, they were sort of just my thoughts, and it got me to thinking about Cindy and Chris, and you know.
Yeah.
There you go. But anyway, summer's coming in Australia. Some beautiful weathers. You know, we've even got swimming weather already. And,
I don't want to hear that. Yeah. Ow, I don't want to hear that. No.
Hey, our spring and summers last for months and months and months.
Very good for you.
You know,
it's horrible here.
Holiday, you come to Australia where the beaches are beautiful.
But lots of sharks, right?
Well, yeah, if you go out into the ocean, but you know, they don't really come in too close. And if you're in patrolled beaches,
you'll only lose half. You'll only lose the bottom half of your leg. They'll get you out, right? They're trained. They'll put that tourniquet on, and you'll only lose the bottom half.
I think if you look at the population of Australia and the amount of people that go in the surf, I think actually people that usually get taken by sharks are surfers, and they go out a fair way, and they swim. They go on unpatrolled beaches, you know, at certain times when they probably shouldn't, because that's when the waves are good. But I think, yeah, we have a lot of spiders, a lot of snakes, a lot of sharks, but you know.
But you don't have something. What did they say that you guys didn't have? Somebody said, and I was like, they don't have that? And they're like, no. There was some, like, it's not mosquitoes, right? You have mosquitoes.
We have mosquitoes.
Yeah, there was something they said, they don't have those in Australia. And I'm like, they don't have those? And it wasn't a spider. It wasn't a snake. It was some
sort of insect, was it?
I think. I'm like, they don't have that. And I'm like, they don't have that. How could they not have that? And they're like, no, they don't have them. I'm trying to think.
We probably have a lot more spiders than you guys. Do you have redbacks?
What are redbacks? Spiders? Redback spiders?
Redback spiders, yeah. They're black and they have a red line down their back. They're pretty deadly.
Pretty deadly, yeah.
I've killed a few of those.
Oh, good. You've seen those in your house and stuff?
In my shed one day. I didn't realise what they were because they were eggs. I didn't know. And they looked like little, probably about the size of a peanut, white sacks. And then I saw the mum, and she was a redback, and I killed them all. But then I went and did some research on it. So now I know what those eggs look like. But, you know, as long as you keep the area sprayed, you know, and you're just cautious. There is a song, you know, there's a redback on the toilet seat, you know, be careful. In Australia, there's a song about, the redback on the toilet seat. But we have beautiful kangaroos, koalas.
Bears? Do you have bears?
No bears.
That's what it was. No bears.
Yeah, no bears.
No bears.
So
the bears, you just have koala bears, but that's it.
koala bears are totally different. They're little tiny.
Yeah, little tiny, cute. Yeah, little bears.
They have sharp claws, but they're beautiful. They eat gum trees. They live in gum trees. They're probably not going to kill you.
No, they could maul you, but you'd still think they're cute. Yeah. Cute
we
little
have kangaroos. They can be pretty aggressive, I'll tell you.
They'll kick the crap out of you, right?
Very strong. Yeah. So,
are they like deer though? Or are they like the deer around here? Now they're so brazen. They're just going into like even in like suburbs. They're in the backyard. Are kangaroos like that over there? Are they in the backyard now?
Only in not where I live, not in the cities. If you go out to the like where people have properties, you know, that you'll find them out there. But no, I've never seen a kangaroo in my area where I've lived in my life.
They're not like deer crossing the road. Like we have to be like careful of the deer. They're out like crazy tonight, and you're no,
not even deer. I think I've seen reindeer a few times in my life. They don't. We have some peacocks occasionally, not very often. We don't really have animals that walk around. Probably the biggest thing is spiders and snakes. I've never seen a snake in my yard or anything, but if we go down to the local creek, my children did see, I think it was a brown snake or something down there once, which are pretty lethal.
Lethal. Oh, okay.
But no, the suburbs look probably much like they do in your home. Well, not exactly where you live because it's a bit different. But
I mean, we have a lot of animals up encroaching. We have coyotes coming into residential areas. We have the deer.
We don't have coyotes. We have dingoes, but they mainly live in Darwin and Northern Territory. You know, the dingo took my baby.
Dingo took my baby. Yeah.
Yeah, you know that they found the jumpsuit years later in the wild. She should never have been convicted, that woman.
Yeah.
They found the baby's matinee jacket like 8 years later in the wild with blood all over it.
Where is she now?
She lives in America actually. Her and her husband divorced, and she married an American.
She had other children. She had other children, right? Older children.
Yes, she had children, and she had one while she was in jail, which her husband raised. So she had the two boys with her in the tent, and then she had the other, Azaria was the one taken, and then she had the younger one, but she should never have gone to jail because it was just a witch hunt to get her, and you know that was proof. To find the matinee jacket 8 years later in the middle of the desert, you know, with blood all over it, was the exact one she had on. I mean, you know, that's pretty telling that a dingo did take the baby. And they were just out to get her, which was really sad. It destroyed their lives, I suppose, didn't it? But she married an American guy. She lives in America and she's pretty happy, I think, aside from all the scarring and memories. But yeah, we don't have a lot of crime. I'm following, you know, I just followed that Amber.
Geiger.
Yeah, Geiger. That was quite interesting. I think she deserved to go to jail. I think that, you know, even if she was the wrong apartment, I completely understand why she could have done that. You don't just walk in and shoot someone. You get out of there, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think not so much following this latest one with all the children, but he.
Which one with all the children?
You know, the latest one.
With Jones. Oh, okay. I was trying to think.
There's too many happening to keep.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about like all the children like that. The one where they had all the kids. Like, what was their name? Those.
I remember.
Those Torah with a T, right? What the heck wasn't it? What the heck was her name? Turpins, the Turpins.
Yeah, that was pretty sad, wasn't it?
That was deranged. I mean, they would go to Vegas and all the kids would be all dressed up and then they'd go home and they'd be all, you know, I mean, that was weird.
Yeah, and it was pretty weird how they got away with it for so long as well. And you know what? Maybe sometimes you have one parent that's a bit twisted. You think you wouldn't have two.
Two, right? Yeah. Most people like they that's where they have disagreements, right? Over like everything about the kids. Like one's the disciplinarian, one's the one that's like more easygoing, right? So it's all these things.
Yeah.
And then you have two that are completely cracked.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's right.
or it's like a Joel Steinberg thing where he had Nussbaum like programmed, right? He brainwashed her and he used drugs to get her to do what he wanted. Remember?
Yeah.
They were smoking
So
crack like crazy.
That's a perfect example, the Turpins, of what effect the parents can have on the children. For those children to get to that age and to take so long to raise the alarm, you know, why? Because of how the parents raised them. There you go. It's so telling, isn't it? So I think if you look at the parents of most of the, I think Jeffrey Dahmer was a little bit different. I think he had a pretty good dad, didn't he? I'm not sure. Mum and dad, I think.
Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't know much about his parents.
Yeah, I think they were pretty good. So I think you always find when you dig back, I think there's usually something that.
Well, John Douglas, who did that Killer Across the Table, he said the mothers better watch out because all of these guys that he's been profiling, it kind of starts with that relationship with the mother.
Yeah. And in fact, if I thought my son was a danger to anybody, I would be the first one to step in and stop that. You know, you're not going to be a hero. You're not going to be a good mum if you allow your children to get into trouble. So, you know, you do everything in your power. But I'm not saying Sydney knew he was going to kill his children. I mean, who would ever know that? But you just look out for signs and don't be naive. I think that's the thing. And I really hope there's a long break before we. Well, I wish it would never happen again, but that's not feasible. I hope there's a long break before anything like this happens again. It seems to be just about an everyday occurrence, doesn't it? That there's murders and
I mean, it's crazy. Some of them you don't hear about, some of them you don't hear about at all. I mean, and then others are, right there. It all depends on.
I'll tell you what. There's something that I've watched a lot, and it started off in Family Court. I don't know whether you've ever heard of the Michael McDonald. Started off in Family Court. It is the most hilarious thing. It's still going on today. It's been going on for, I think it started in about 15 or 16. He started off in Family Court. He ended up getting arrested and put into jail numerous times. But, he's a narcissist, this guy. It's just watching the journey.
We're in Australia? In Australia?
No, he's in America. Michael McDonald, his name is. And every time he stepped in the courts, even in the family court, he could not see what he was doing wrong. She had an ABO out on him. He would go and put perfume in her car, or give one of the children a present for mum, and then come to court and go, "Oh, I didn't know I was doing something wrong." I mean, every single time he came back to court, he was doing things that were wrong. And he adjusted the. He had a letter from the psychiatrist to say that he was, because he wanted to see his kids, and his behaviour just wasn't allowing that, and he fraudulently edited the psychologist's or psychiatrist's letter to say that he was no threat to the children, and then couldn't understand why he faced criminal charges for fraudulent, because he said, well, that's what she meant to write. I mean, just looking at the journey over the last 4 or 5 years of this guy and his narcissism, and no matter, every week he'd be back for doing something else. Well, I didn't know. And he went through lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. They just all gave up on him in the end. But it was watching that journey, and it's still going on. There was something on there yesterday about it. So, but anyway, that's an interesting watch on YouTube, Michael McDonald. If you watch it from day one, follow the journey. It's a lot of watching. But
Well,
it's pretty
Frazee, you're going to follow the Frazee case? Because that's coming up here any day now. Yeah, that's going to be...
I am. I actually think that woman, Casey...
Crystal Kenny.
Crystal, I think she's gone.
What do you mean gone?
It doesn't matter it doesn't matter that they offered her a deal. They haven't found a body. She's more or less confessed to cleaning up the murder scene. He's not opened his mouth once. I wouldn't be surprised. That deal would be off the table because they've asked.
It's off the table. If they find out she lied, it would be off the table. Yeah. But if she didn't lie, because then it's still there. It'll be interesting because he's going to blame her. She's going to blame him. And then it's just, he's going to think that he's got it made and he's going to walk.
Yeah, I absolutely think that he probably will walk.
And I wouldn't doubt if he's not having messages sent to her through his mother somehow. Yeah. That's just going to say, like, let him blame you, and then he'll get off and he'll take care of you or whatever. You know what I mean?
I think she'll take the fall. No, I reckon she's going to take the fall because they can't prove. Oh,
yeah, I think she will. I think that's what he wants. Definitely. Yeah. She'll take, she has the plea deal, so she's not going to, do any real time. It's, most like a year maybe, and then he's going to say, don't worry, I'll take care of you.
Yeah, but I reckon she'll go down big. That's what I reckon. Because she's admitted to doing that, but there's no proof to say that she didn't murder her. So, there's a lot of evidence that she was involved, but to what degree? So I think if he remains to keep his mouth, he's done a very smart thing, keeping his mouth shut. And, she was stupid anyway. If someone said to me, go and kill someone, the first thing I'd do is go to the police, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I think she probably deserves to, and even for cleaning that up, she deserves to go to jail.
Yeah, and who would clean that up? Oh, my gosh. She definitely wasn't a germaphobe, but, yeah, who the heck would clean that up?
Who would clean it up? The person that did it. That's who would clean it up.
And then go to Sonic.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it'll be very interesting. I suspect he will get off, and I suspect she will take a big fall. Not just what they've agreed to, because you can go in and say, well, there's proof that she did it because she's told you she did it, but there's no proof that she didn't kill. They've got no one else to blame for the murder because if they can't get Frazee, then who are they going to get? The person that cleaned it up? I don't know.
Well, they're getting her to say that, she, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, it's just going to be really...
It's a shame they're not allowing cameras, and I'd say because it's a fairly old...
I know, that's crazy. Why wouldn't they allow the cameras?
I'd say it's the town where they are. It's quite a small town, and that courtroom is very
But they're
small.
still going to go in there, and there's still going to be people outside, you know what I mean?
I know. Are they going to have audio, do you know?
I don't think they're having anything.
Well, that'd be a bit of a shame. Would be very interesting. But I don't think I haven't heard that they've got anything on him other than Crystal Lee's confession.
Right, I know. That's what they said. They had to sacrifice her to get something on him.
Yeah. What about the tooth? They still haven't come back with the results.
Not that we know, but they might be. Look at the Jones case. Oh, somebody said there's new news now. Did they finally identify the children? I don't know. Let me see here. Which somebody said that there was. They sent me some new news. Let me see. Because that is just ridiculous. That they haven't identified the children yet, even or charged him with the.
How can you not? There's a reason they're holding it back. I don't know what it is. There must be a reason. I don't know what it would be. Why could not they identify the children especially when it's a high-profile case, when so many people are talking about it, They need to, get onto that. Because there's a lot of people suffering. Okay. Relatives, well, I suppose everybody knows it's the children, but you just want to hear it, don't you?
All right, let me see. I'm trying to... Who's the one? Oh, here. Okay, hang on. Oh, you just told me to check them, Andrea? Hold on a minute. She didn't send me a link either. Okay. let's see. Come on. The internet, I don't know if it's because it's so slow. Okay, so, oh, he's charged now with the death. Say, finally?
Okay, yeah.
Wow, finally. Okay, so now, what'd they do? Did they give us the cause of death? Michael Wayne Jones Jr. was charged Monday with 4 counts of first-degree premeditated homicide. Okay, and come on, Michael has also been charged with the death of his wife, Casey Jones, after she was found inside a van driven by the suspect. Detectives believe Michael Jones Jr. killed the victims inside the family's Marion County home in Summerfield. Detectives say he killed his wife by blunt force trauma on July 10th, and then he killed the 2 oldest children the following day by strangulation. 2 weeks later, detectives believe the suspect killed the 2 youngest children by drowning them. He then left the bodies inside the home for a few weeks before placing them into his van and leaving them there for more than 2 weeks, according to the sheriff's office. On September 14th, the sheriff's office responded to the report of Casey Jones hadn't been seen in 6 weeks.
Build a solid foundation.
Where am I getting?
And you can connect communities and commerce
Where's
for
that coming
centuries.
from?
That's the strength behind
No,
it.
not me.
It's not you. It's stupid ads on these things, and then I can't. They drive me insane.
So you've got the cause of death for the last 2 were drowning, and I can't remember what you said for the other 2.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Did you see that? They get, what was the cause of death? He drowned the last 2?
The last 2 you've just read out that they were drowned.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Did you read that?
No. I didn't get that far. No. Did you?
Oh,
Yeah. Hold on.
yeah.
No, I had to. No, I didn't get that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. I was trying to see. Let me see. Cause of death. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see here. Cassie.
You said
Blunt force.
trauma?
That's the mother.
To
The
her,
autopsy. Okay, let me see here. That's the mother. Yeah, and then what is
The other 2 children.
I'm trying to see. On medical examiner reveals the cause of death of the Florida mom, but not. I don't see the kids.
And just into our newsroom, a Florida man accused of killing his wife and her 4 children just had new charges filed against him. Last month, Michael Jones Jr. was already facing a murder charge for the death of Casey Jones, but now he's been charged with first-degree premeditated homicide for each of the children.
And how did they die?
Jones killed them at their home in Central Florida and drove around with their bodies in a van for weeks.
How did they die?
In Georgia.
No, they don't tell you how they died.
So, okay.
They're not telling us yet.
Hmm.
Not that did anybody else hear how they died?
I can't see the chat.
I'm going to check the chat. Did anybody else hear? Now, Felicia's saying drowning the 2 youngest ones.
Yeah, I think you definitely said the 2 youngest ones drowned. He drowned them.
No, that was.
I know you can't remember but you did. Go back and listen to it later.
I said drowning?
Yeah, you said the 2 youngest, when you read that report out to me a minute ago, you said the 2 youngest were drowned.
That was long. Wait, hold on. No, but they're saying he strangled. No, wait, I think everybody's got that Longo. They're talking about Longo.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, that other bloke you were talking about.
The other case. Yeah, they're talking about the other case.
Okay. Anyway, I'm sure it'll come out fairly soon. But yeah,
now Diane's saying she said 2. I am so confused because I didn't say drown. Do you guys think I said drown? I don't remember saying that at all. If I said,
think you did,
I just read it.
Mm.
You said the oldest were no. I'm scared now because I really
you know
don't.
What? But you've got too much going on in your head. That's why.
I said, because I remember I said something like they said that they were killed in the home in Somerville, that he drove around with them in the van.
You said he was caught with the mum in the back of his car, but he left the children. He killed 2 children, and then 2 weeks later he killed the others. They were in the van or wherever for another couple of weeks before he disposed of the bodies.
I think you heard the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did hear you say that. But
I'm gonna have to listen to that again because
it could be me that's going crazy. What does the chat say?
They're saying that I said it, but I don't remember. Something's wrong with me then. I need help.
You're tired. You probably need to go to sleep.
But I don't remember saying that. Now Alicia says she didn't hear me say drown. Go back to the article and read. Okay, I'm gonna go back.
Article you read, yeah.
Hang on. Let me see.
Just before you got cut off.
Okay, let me see. So I think it was this one, right? Let's see. Okay, 4 counts, and then detectives believe Michael killed his victims inside the Marion County home. Detectives say he killed his wife with blood, and then he killed the oldest children the following day by strangulation. But I didn't. Okay, I'm scared because I don't.
Figure.
Yeah, I gotta shut this.
Face your fear, okay?
But I don't remember reading that. That is right.
What does it say?
It says, let's see, detectives believe. Let's see, they believe. Oh, now see, I gotta shut this thing because I can't even hear. Okay, there we go. Finally. Oh, okay. Oh, now she keeps coming again. Every time I keep shutting it. Now I don't know where it's going.
Multiple times. At an Arlington apartment complex, you're taking a look at video just into our newsroom. JSO
I don't even know where this is coming from.
Calls for help to this complex in the 3200 block of Justine.
I don't know. This is crazy. So, okay. Say he killed his wife by blunt force trauma on July 10th and then killed the 2 oldest children the following day by strangulation. 2 weeks.
It's a global truth.
The youngest, yeah, okay, then there's something wrong with me. That's what it says. Okay,
There's nothing wrong with you. You're overloaded. You've got your mind, and it's early. It's late in the night.
Okay, so he drowned them, and I wonder if he did it at the ocean. He wouldn't have done it at the. Oh, that's horrible. Did he drown them?
Bathtub.
But was it in the ex-wife's bathtub? Because she claims he had all the kids there.
Oh, you know what? She's got a lot to answer to as well. That woman.
Hmm.
Yeah, and she's made a lot of false statements to the police.
And she keeps yakking to everybody, and I think the police are just saying, keep yakking, keep yakking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he was such an Adonis that he went between wives.
Yeah, like
what
who?
Did he have going
he had all
for
these
him?
women.
No
like I know.
Exactly.
No money, no looks.
Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's given me a boost of confidence.
It's scary, isn't it? It seems like maybe it just like men are in such demand that, that's scary. It's like, did you ever see Billy Crystal in, it was either the Analyze This or the first, and he's got this couple in there and he just can't think, and they're just sitting there complaining to him, and she's like, he wants me to do this, and he's like, I want to do that, and he's like, hey, have you two taken a look at each other? And he's like, I don't care. You don't have good odds of getting anyone else, so you better just suck it up. And I'm just like, sometimes you think that, but then you see something like this, and you've got women like, oh, he had women then, he had women there. Oh my gosh, please.
Even his employees said he was a real Casanova. He was hit on everybody at the veterinary surgery. They didn't even know till after all this came out that he was hitting on all the young girls.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you'd be just going, please stop, hand in face. Like, excuse me. I don't know. What does that say about the women? That's the thing.
Yeah, I know. That is crazy. I'm just, are you kidding me? And she's like, we had a lot of women. I'm like, a lot of women. What were they?
The employees said they bought that caravan for them.
The employees said,
Yeah.
"Oh, they did.
The vet.
They bought
They
it."
bought, and he was supposed to be paying them back. They found out he stole from them. They got video footage of it, of him stealing, and I think that's why they got rid of him in the end. But they gave him money. They took him in. They bought the van. You know, they were absolutely the best employees. And, you know, that's what I'm saying. He was given every opportunity. People just fell over their feet to him.
Yeah, why? I know.
Exactly.
Oh my
If I
gosh.
ran into him on a dark night, I'd be running the other way.
Yeah.
It was pretty scary. Look at this little insignificant little creature.
Okay, yeah, Alicia said they let Mike Jones live with them. They put down a down payment for the car. They fired Casey because he said she was the one stealing from the clinic.
Yep, and it was him. Yeah, so, you know, they, you know, and they were beautiful employees. They, you know, nice people, got 6 of their own children. And I think one of Michael's children had autism.
I think
And
so,
I think
yeah, I
that
heard
might
that.
have, I think that was the first one that he killed, apparently. Well, I heard that. You know, and I mean, I don't condone that he killed them. I suppose, you know, with a child with autism, you can become probably very frustrated. You might accidentally, you know, lash out, but not that you killed your child, but then to go on and kill all the others, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So
I just can't wait to see his interviews. I want to see his interviews with the police.
Are we going to see them? Do you reckon?
Well, eventually, yeah.
No.
I want to see
They will
Patrick.
come out
I
with
want to see
discovery.
Patrick Frazie's too. He just probably just sat
Well,
there.
I think that'll be pretty boring.
Yeah, I know. He probably.
Because I don't think he's said anything.
Right,
so.
I know. I just want to see him. He's
But
such
you
a
know
jerk.
what? If I was to commit a crime, and if the police were to take me in, whether I did it or I didn't do it, but probably more if I did do it, I just would not say a word. I mean, the only thing you say is, "I want my lawyer."
Mm-hmm.
Why
Give me
would-
my
if
lawyer.
you're guilty, why would you talk?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and watching the interviews, you can see now the steps they take to get the information they want. I mean, it's so clear and evident looking on how they formulate the questions and how they steer the conversation to get the answer that they want. I mean, but, you know, it's very interesting.
But you know, I think it would be funny to just try to piss Frazee off. You know, like make him blash out, like, because he looks like a hothead. So I'd like to see if they tried to play him. You know.
Oh, I'd say they probably did.
That would be
say.
funny.
And I think, you know, he'd been very well advised beforehand to shut your mouth, do not open it, do not speak. And that is the way I would go as well. I would just shut up and say, call my lawyer, and let him handle it, because they know how to get out of things.
No, Nicole, that's not what she said. She thought you said that he killed the first one because he had autism, but he didn't have to kill the others because they had autism.
I didn't mean that it was because he had
Right,
autism.
right.
I'm
She's saying he could have became frustrated and
you might
lash out.
I'm not saying you would kill your child, but I can understand living with a child with autism can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it probably has happened in the past, you know, but I'm not saying that's why he killed them all. Especially if he killed Mum, and Mum was the one dealing with the children, you know, and then no Mum there. I mean, I take my hat off to mums of children with autism. I think they do an exceptional job, a great job. And I do think that God never gives you more than you can handle. I don't know why, because sometimes, you know, I feel like he does, but I don't think he does. We get through what we have to get through. And we're given things, I think we're given things for a reason in life, and whether we don't always like it, but there's often reasons, you know.
Yeah. They can't make you take a lie detector, Susan. That you have to. They can't make you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to put Chris Watts on a lie detector and ask him those questions.
Yeah, I know. And since he's so compliant, that is what I would ask him. If somebody said, "What do I want to ask him?" That's what I want to ask him. Would you give me that confession you just gave me hooked up to the lie detector?
Yeah, and ask him the questions. Did you kill the children before Shanann got home? You know, I don't believe what he's told her. I think it's a lot of rubbish. Says what he wants to get it.
He's a liar, and there's not anything like really. There's nothing in that book that's. Oh yeah, I have that. Tell me about that. Oh, that we know that already.
And he's not a Christian either. Just because you can recite the Bible and you go around sprouting it.
He can recite anything. He can recite any book. Oh my gosh.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got that. Memorize anything. Anyway, oh gosh, it's late.
All right.
So all right. Well, thanks for calling in, and thank you guys for. Thank you to our mods. Thank you for everybody coming, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a good night. Happy birthday, Evie, and prayers for all that need them. See you guys. The vets they have 6 kids. They call him Uncle Mike. Okay, I'll check it out.